Hello? 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 Prasad, are you on mute? Can you please check it once? Hello?
కనెక్ట్ అయ్యి ఉంటే దాంట్లో నుంచి అన్నమాట ఇది ఆల్రెడీ కనెక్ట్ అయింది కదా.
Everyone, good evening. Welcome to the job fair session by OdinSchool. We have Mr. Babu with us, who will be taking through the full stack questions and everything for the next 2 hours. So, hi Babu Garu, good evening.
Yeah, hi Prasad. Good evening.
Sir, over to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, I'm sharing my screen. Okay. So yeah, hi everyone. Today we joined to discuss regarding Java full stack job fair. Okay. So as a fresher or as an experience when we apply for a role of Java full stack. Okay. Say Java full stack. So how we should prepare for the interview and what are all the concepts on which basically interviewers use to touch base, and some sample code snippets for your brush up for the interview, and what are all the areas that you have to make sure to address before you join any interview. So okay, all that stuff through summarizing all of them. So I want to take a session today. So this is with my experience. Okay, so how we should prepare for an interview and what we can expect for an interview. And yes, you know concepts, you are all prepared for interviews, but the way you answer also makes very important role. Okay, so for some questions, how you have to answer and what are all the technologies you have to touch base, and the format of an interview. Generally, when an interviewer starts interviewing, so in which order does he take interview, and what are the key areas he will be expecting at the end of the interview? He has to submit his remarks. Okay, so to the management. So at that time, what are the points that he is going to take into consideration? Okay, so this is purely for Java full stack developer. So where I'm expecting Java. So the key technologies to say are, say when you apply for a job where you have the key technologies of Java 8, Spring Boot, Angular or React. Okay, so REST services or microservices, REST services or microservices, Angular or React. So if you search any job profile today, okay, microservices or Angular or React. So if you search even now, if you search in any job profile sites to apply for a Java full stack role, these are the things which you'll be hearing. Okay, so here will come SQL as well. Okay, so if you look at job profiles, there will be two things. Few things which are mandatory to have, few things which are optional to have. So mandatory means yes, you should be very good in these technologies. Java 8, SQL. So SQL language, don't mind with any database. It could be MySQL database, Oracle, Postgres, DB2, any database. So SQL language and flexibility of writing the complex queries given a requirement, and Spring framework. Okay, the framework which we use in order to develop the applications in real time, and REST services or microservices through which we expose endpoints for our application, and Angular or React, any UI framework through which we are going to build the front end part of our application. Okay, so these are mandatory skills you should be having when you are applying for Java full stack role. Okay, and optional to have. So optional things are, so basically AWS. Okay, so earlier when you apply only for Java developer, if you just strong in core Java and good at frameworks, that should be fine. Suppose if you apply as a UI developer, you're strong in HTML, CSS, JavaScript and good at Angular or React framework, it should be fine. But when you apply for a Java full stack developer, companies will be looking for a candidate who can take the ownership of end-to-end of a given task in a sprint. Okay, so a new sprint started in a project. So when we assign an item to a developer, he is responsible to develop the web page, for that feature, to design the web page using Bootstrap or CSS, and to develop the front end modifications, whatever we need with respect to Angular, and integrate them to the backend web services, developing web services, handling the Java business logic, writing the queries based on the requirements. So these all come under development. And additionally, they will be looking for your knowledge on ADO, in the sense Azure DevOps pipelines. So you should be developing the pipelines in order to do continuous development, continuous integration, CI/CD pipelines. Okay, so you should be good at AWS, cloud deployment, okay, Azure DevOps, and whatnot. So everything. So basically, they don't want to invest on one more person to do the same feature. So after a few days, if there is any bug raised on that feature, there should be one point of contact person who should be able to resolve that issue in any environment it could be, dev, UAT, and prod environments. That is the reason behind the demand we have for Java full stack developers in the current market. Okay, so if I say Java developer, he blames that something is wrong from the front end, I'm not getting the expected inputs. When I say UI developer, he blames that from the back end, I'm not getting the data in the expected format. So all this happens. But when I say Java full stack developer, you are responsible to do end to end, starting from developing the page in the browser till persisting the data in the database. The end to end flow, only one person is responsible. Okay, so though they invest some amount, but they can get the reliability, they can get the accountability for a given feature. That is the reason companies are looking for Java full stack developer. Okay, so that is the value Java full stack developer role is having in the current market. So as I said, these are mandatory things to have. So now, to start the interview, what is the format? How interviewer leads the interview? Okay, yes, so structure of Java interview, initially we can expect a formal introduction, introduce yourself. So if you're a fresher, it would be in one way. If you are experienced, it would be in another way. So whenever the candidate is giving an interview, so interviewer will be looking for key things from the interview. Okay, it is not that he is interested to know something personal of you. Okay, so the intention behind asking introduce yourself is, firstly, if you are a fresher, then he will be looking for your academic percentages. Okay, so how you perform during your academics. So based on those marks or percentages, he will be getting some idea in the mind. Okay, so this is the standard of this person. So this is where he stands, like that. Okay, suppose if you're experienced, he will be looking for your projects. What kind of projects did you work on? What kind of domains did you work on? Okay, what are the technologies you worked on? Okay, so such things he will be expecting from you when he asks you to introduce yourself. Okay, he is not concerned about where are you from or all your personal stuff. Yes, it's a formal introduction to know yourself, but the basic things are he will be looking for your academic performance. Okay, so the projects, what you did during your academics, the enthusiasm you shown in the projects. Okay, so the new technologies on which you get a chance to work on. Okay, such things they will be looking for in your formal introduction. Okay, so next, if you are fresher, he will be directly going for your what is your technical stack. That means what are the technologies did you get a chance to have your hands on during your practice sessions or whatever it could be. Okay, if you are experienced, he will be directly asking you the second question as, tell me about your project. What is the project you worked on? He will be listening a brief introduction of your project, and the key things what he will be looking for is what are the technologies that you used in the project. That is first thing. Okay, so what version of Java have you used? What is the database that you have used, and which version of Spring have you used, and how are you integrating with respect to database? What is the are you using any ORM tool or normal Spring JDBC and the front-end frameworks? So not only the technologies. So secondly, he will be looking for the environment. How are you building your application? Okay, so how are you maintaining your application? And the third thing he will be looking for is a CI/CD. How are you doing the continuous integration and continuous development? So what are where do you stand in that? I mean to say, he will ask questions to test your knowledge on those. As I said at the beginning, so interviewer will be looking for not only just your technical skills. When you say Java full stack developer, end to end. So starting from application development, application deployment, application building, okay, checking the prod logs, everything. Okay, so that is how the format would be. So as I said, initially formal introduction, and then if you are fresher, he will be going to your technical skills. If you are experienced, he will be going to your projects. Okay, so now if you are experienced, let's cover both. Okay, if you are experienced, when you are explaining your project, okay, so he will be looking for your roles and responsibilities in the project. Okay, so what did you work on in that project? Yes, your project is very good. It's using latest technologies, and it is a trending domain you are working on, and your domain knowledge is super, very good. But the thing is, what is your accountability in that project? What did you work on? Okay, so roles and responsibilities, this is very important thing. Okay, so here is where you can address, so the whatever the things which you worked on in your project. So instead of saying generic answers, it would be great if you take some module of your project that you have worked on and give a brief introduction of the project domain knowledge. Okay, and from there on, try to give some brief introduction of business behind that module. And now from there, taking a business feature and start describing your technical things, what you did, how you develop the page, how you design the page, what is the flexibility that you're providing for the user on your web page. Okay, so how you are exposing the web services, so what are the requirements for which, how are you defining the API, and how are you integrating with respect to database. Likewise, so you have to take a feature, give a brief business knowledge for that feature. Through keeping that in interviewer's mind, now start defining your technical skills. Okay, this gives very good introduction. I mean, a perfect answer for your work on the project. Okay, so if you guys say very generic answers, okay, I exposed REST API in the controller layer, I addressed the business logic in the service layer, I communicated with database in that repository layer. Yes, that's the same we do in any project. Okay, so even I just work in on some dummy project during my practice, I do the same, controller service repository integrating with respect to front end. But when he asks you your roles and responsibilities in the project, you have to introduce your project some domain knowledge and the business behind that feature, and not elaborately. Okay, just to give a high level idea. So for that feature, how are you taking it technically? Okay, that is a good way to answer if you are experienced. Okay, now let's come to the role of fresher. Okay, so I'm a fresher, say I started looking for job. Okay, so after completing my academics, I spend time on learning the Java technologies. So what are the trending technologies which the current job profiles are looking for? I learned all of them. So 60% is learning technologies, 40% is developing some POC on the technologies what you learn. That is very important. Okay, see, technologies everyone can know. Oh, 1 minute, I have to connect charge. 1 minute. Sorry. See, learning technologies is a bit difficult or a very easy thing. The thing is, the more time you spend, you can learn the technologies. But what is important in IT market is applying the technologies what you learn. Your implementation of technologies in the projects, that is very important. Okay, so in Java, we learn inheritance, we learn polymorphism, we learn interfaces. Okay, but how are you applying them in your project? That is very important. Oh, is it not connected? 1 minute. I'm sorry. Okay, so we're discussing for fresher, right? So if you are a fresher, so once you learn all the technologies, the very important thing is doing some sample projects. Okay, so whatever the technologies that you learn, so through applying those technologies, you have to do some sample projects. Okay, so through those projects, as I said, for experience, how they used to relate the technical skills with the domain knowledge, like that, even it's a small project that does that's not a big thing. So you are not expected to do a full-fledged enterprise application. Okay, you can just do a sample project, but from that project, what interviewer expect from you is how are you applying the things what you learn. Okay, so technically, whatever the skills you learned, those how are you applying as a fresher. Okay, so your implementation is a key thing. Okay, so what we think is, yes, we learned this, and we prepared all the definitions which interviewer asked. Okay, that's good. Okay, but what leaves good impression is showcasing your implementation skills, what you learned. Okay, that leaves very big margin between the guy who got 100%, 100 marks in the MCQs and who gives good answer in the interview. I mean to say, the more you showcase your implementation skills, that leaves good impression to the interviewer. Okay, so try to focus on those areas. Okay, so prepare well for the interview, learn all the technologies, learn all the definitions, learn how to crack all the complex logics. Yes, but the similar way, keep in mind showcasing your implementation skills. Okay, so it's not that you know or you don't know, but in that 30 or 40 minutes, you should let interviewer know that whatever you learned, you are able to apply them. You know how to use them in the projects. If you are able to showcase those skills, he don't mind even if you give 2 or 3 definitions wrongly. Okay, but your implementation skills are very important. Okay, so that is how we have to prepare. So coming to technical skills, so when I say Java full stack interview, companies will basically look for 60 to 70% of Java and 30 to 40% of UI. Okay, so they will be having more concentration on Java 8, I mean Java technologies, Java concepts, Java 8 features. Okay, and SQL queries and all, and spring related questions they will be asking, and web services, microservices, hibernate. So till here it will be Java. Okay, so most of your interview, when I say 30 minutes, I can expect 15 minutes on Java. Okay, if you are a fresher, definitely they won't expect you to be master in the frameworks. Okay, they expect you whether you know Java concepts or not, and are you able to apply them or not. That's it. If you're good in that, that should be well and good for a fresher. Okay, so you should have some basic idea on using the frameworks. That's where I said, right, you have to come up with doing some sample POCs, proof of concept, what you learned. Okay, and front end part, so very few questions on HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and finally Angular. Okay, and if there are any integration issues, they will try to bring them up on the table, but not more for the fresher. Okay, so this is how the interview would be. So initially formal introduction, and then if you do any project, so if you don't do any project on the current Java technologies, right, at least they will ask your academic projects. In academic, you do some project, right? So what is the intention behind asking your academic project? Suppose you are from EEE background and the interviewer is pure IT person. He is having 10 years of experience in IT. Okay, and he long back during his academics also, let's say he is from IT background. So why he is asking you to give your EEE project explanation now? Why? Because he will be looking for your confidence. Okay, when explaining a project, are you able to give full-fledged answer, end to end, how it is starting, how it is ending, how are you integrating the things? And see, we can answer any question in 2 ways. We can just give one line answer, yes, but we can give a brief answer. So brief answer, that brings confidence in the candidates. Okay, so he will be looking for confidence, and he will be again testing the roles and responsibilities in your project. You may say whatever you want, he may not understand as well, but the confidence in your eyes, the confidence in your voice, that matters. Okay, so he may ask some random question which he also don't know what is answer for that, but how are you responding for that answer? Okay, so it is not that every candidate know every answer. You may know few, you may not know few, but the way you answer is important. Okay, your mental ability. So when you are put in a situation where you don't know what to do, how are you reacting for that? that is also they will test. Okay, that is the intention behind asking you to explain your academic project, okay, and your responsibilities in that project. And they will simply ask what is the version of software that you have used in your project, okay, just to test how much interested you are in that project. Okay, so 5 to 6 members will do a project during academics. So I can say frankly, not everyone will keep same amount of interest. Very few will be having idea on what versions of softwares they have used. Okay, they also that's the reason they will ask those questions as well. Okay, they will be going for some version tools. Okay, so at the end of the session we will be discussing these as well. So what are the version tools you have used, and so they will be expecting whether you know them or not. They won't expect you to be master of them. Okay, so you know what is the purpose of using them? CI/CD tools. What is the use of? What is the need of continuous integration? What is the need of continuous deployments? Okay, what are the tools we have in the market? Okay, so some questions on that. And unit testing. So again, developers needs to write unit test cases, both front end and back end. So some questions on that. And very important thing, Scrum methodologies. Okay, Scrum ceremonies, I can say. So even we work for 6 months, 7 months period of time, you should be knowing all these. So what is backlog refinement? What is sprint grooming? What is sprint planning? What are Scrum calls? What are sprint retrospectives? Okay, such things. And some mental power testing questions. Okay, so just to test how are you answering for the questions what you are not prepared for. Okay, so as a fresher, when you're applying for an interview, you will be majorly concentrating on Java, inheritance, polymorphism, Spring, web services kind of stuff. But you will not be preparing for the questions of where do you want to see yourself after 3 years in the company. You might not be having any idea before you join that interview. Or they may come up with some very interesting questions saying that unknowingly you deleted someone's code. Then how do you react for that? Okay, so without taking pull, you pushed your changes and it resolved a big problem in the production. So how are you going to face that? Okay, so these all are for testing your confidence. Okay, staying in a situation where you don't know the answer, how are you reacting for that? That is very important. Okay, mental strength. Okay, and finally, if interviewer feels that okay, you are well prepared for the interview, that's when he will ask you to write some programs, some sample interview questions. Okay, so again, these technical questions are just to test your logical thinking. Okay, given a problem, how are we solving it? So I do prepared some code snippets which we shall see the later part of the session. Okay, so initially I want to introduce you the format of Java full stack interview. Okay, so if you have attended any interviews as of now, this is how usually they will be the format. Initially they will be having formal introduction, and then your project and your roles and responsibilities in the project and technical skills. Okay, what are the technologies that you have used, and what are the version tools that you have used, what are CI/CD tools that you have used, unit testing, Scrum methodology, and some HR kind of questions, some manager role questions, and finally some programs to test your logical thinking. Okay, this is in brief how you can expect your interview when you're applying for Java full stack. Okay, now let's dig into the questions. Okay, let's dig into the part of questions. Okay, so as I said, first they will be concentrating your Java skills. Okay, so to start with, they will be going from one by one. Okay, topic by topic, starting from core Java OOPS concepts till Java 8 features. Okay, so I will be taking few of the questions. I will take the question and I will answer the question. So you will be getting some idea of how to answer the questions. Okay, so again I'm repeating, every question can be answered in multiple ways. I don't say this is the standard definition. No, but what I'm saying is the way you answer, the brief you answer, the key points you are answering, those are important. Okay. For a simple example, I will give like this. Just for simple example, I ask a question, what is meant by inheritance? One person said, sharing the properties between classes is called as inheritance. Okay, that is correct, perfect. And one person said, when you are having common properties repeated across multiple classes, example, employee, regular employee, contract employee, you can sense some common properties in between these three entities. In such cases, I can extract the common properties to one class and I can create the parent and child relationship between these classes through using extends keyword is called as inheritance. And we are achieving code reusability in inheritance. Can you sense the difference in between the answers? The first answer is perfectly correct. Sharing the properties between classes is called as inheritance. Okay. So for a fresher, right, particularly, the more elaborate answer you give, it leaves good impression to the interviewer. Okay. So that will be showing your confidence on the topic. Okay. So try to habituate answering the question in a more elaborate way. So elaborate way in the sense you have to keep the right words in that answer. Okay. It is not that explaining unnecessary things. Okay. So your answer should give definition and should give implementation. Okay. It's not that for every question you need to give some lengthy answers. It's not like that. So try to keep as elaborate as you can. Okay, for the questions. Right. So you understand, right, how you have to answer the questions now? So let's get started. Okay. Yes. So to start with, on core Java, what is meant by class? Class is a template that holds the properties of a given entity. Okay. In the sense, say my requirement is, I want to write a Java program to hold the information of 3 students who joined a course. Okay. So a student will be having different properties: student roll number, name, course, gender, mobile, email. So through writing a class, we will be grouping all the properties as a template. Okay. So that's where class is defined as a template that holds the properties. So what is meant by object? Object in the sense, object is the memory that gets allocated through which we can store the information. Through creating a class, you define a template, right? If you want to store the data, you need to have memory. So when you want to store the information of 3 students, you need to have 3 objects created. So where every object creation will be having some memory allocated, with that memory we can store the data. Okay. And now, what is meant by constructor? What is meant by constructor? A method which is used to initialize the data in the object is called as constructor method. Okay. So methods which are defined with name same as class name and no return type defined before to the name of a method, such methods are called as constructor methods. Okay. So that is how we define a constructor method. So the next one is, when you are creating an object for a class, what is the role of new keyword? So you know the syntax of creating an object, right? Here we say employee emp equal to new employee of, through which we create an object for employee class. Okay. Now, what is the role of new keyword during object creation? And what is the role of constructor method during object creation? Everyone. New keyword is responsible to allocate the memory for your object. And constructor method is responsible to initialize the data in your object. Okay. And static. Coming to static, which properties can be defined with static? The properties in a class that holds common data for all the objects that you create for the class. Okay. So say my requirement is I want to store the information of all students who joined in OdinSchool. So here the institute name is same for all the objects. Respective properties we have to define with static keyword. So static is a predefined keyword which defines common data for all the objects that you create for the class. Okay, right. So next one is coming to inheritance. In the beginning I said you right, the process of sharing the properties from one class to other classes through creating the parent and child relationship between classes using extensive keyword is called as inheritance. So you can just give a brief example, simple example. Say vehicle. Car is a vehicle, bike is a vehicle. So for all the vehicles, you will have some common properties, right? Vehicle number is common, vehicle color is common. So let's have them in the vehicle class. So bike will be having some specific properties, right? Let's say hand clutch price. We will not be having hand clutch in a car. So let's say car, we will be having number of airbags. We don't have number of airbags in bike. Okay. So in general, the more general you keep your answers, okay, what happens is interviewer understand that you are able to apply the concepts what you learn. Vehicle is a class which is going to hold common properties for car and bike. So bike is a class which is going to extend vehicle and define certain unique properties of bike. And car is a class which extends vehicle and holds certain unique properties of car. Like that. Okay. So in a team, everyone is an employee. Developers will be there, testers will be there, admin will be there. Everyone will be having their own roles. So you can extract some common properties between these three guys and define it as an employee and define specific things in developer, tester, and admin. Okay. So the important suggestion what I want to give to everyone is learn definitions, understand concept, as well as spend some time for preparing such generic answers. I mean, general answers. So try to apply on the things what are surrounding you. Okay. So that leaves very good impression to the interview. Okay. Right. So what is the need of inheritance? What are we achieving with it? Okay. You learn something, but why are you, what is the use of it? You should be in a position to justify your answer. The need of inheritance is code reusability. When I have common properties in all the child classes, instead of writing them again and again in every class, that results to redundant code. To avoid that code redundancy, we segregate the common things to the parent class and we make the child classes to extend that parent class. Okay, that is related to inheritance and need of inheritance. And then overloading. What is meant by method overloading? To define it, I can say writing same method name but in multiple forms is called as method overloading. Okay, so method name is same but I can write it in multiple forms. So the general example which I used to say in the classes is when you log into any mobile banking, we generate statements, right? We can generate statement of our transactions. So generating statement is same, but we can generate statement over a month. We can generate statement over a period of months. We can generate a statement over a period of years. We can generate a statement over a period of dates. The thing is, requirement is same, but the same requirement I want to address in different ways. In such cases, we go for overloading. Writing the same method name, but with the different types of arguments or different number of arguments is called as overloading. Okay. Overriding. Say, I given some implementation in the parent class. Now, to a specific child class, I want to rewrite the existing logic with a new implementation logic. Okay. So in such cases, we go for overriding. Okay, so I used to have different examples for that. So as I said, vehicle. So vehicle means I said the properties I want to have are color and vehicle number. Okay, and let's say vehicle color and price. Okay, so now let's say I want to write a method in the parent class saying as get info, where this method is going to display the information of vehicle color and vehicle price. So this um, so this is vehicle color and this is the price of that respect to vehicle. So let's say black and the price as 9,000. Like this I'm displaying. So now when I create class car which extends vehicle, for the same car class I may have different properties saying as number of airbags, okay, or fuel capacity or different other properties, okay, what a car will be having. Okay, so mileage. Okay, so now here in the get info, the same get info method of parent class, I can rewrite it in the child class with a different implementation logic. Say the color of my vehicle is this, and say its price is this, and it is consisting of this many number of airbags, and it is giving mileage of this much. Okay, in the parent class I have a method. The same method in the child I am overriding with a new implementation logic. Okay, so overriding means rewriting the existing logic. Overriding means rewriting the existing logic. Already you have some logic defined in the parent class. The same logic I'm trying to rewrite in the child class over here. This is called as method overriding. Okay, and in polymorphism you will be having some rules. When you're having parent and child classes, you can have some rules. With respect to those rules, instead of asking you theoretically, they will just give some sample code snippet. Let's say I have a class A, I have a class B extends A. Okay, so say in the class A, I have a method M1. So where this method is displaying me SOP system.out.println hi. Okay, this is what the M1 method in the A class is displaying, and class B is extending A, and here we are writing a method M2. So inside this method, let's say I'm printing system.out.println hello. Okay, and let's say in the child class we are overriding the parent class method with a new implementation logic. Okay, hey boss. Okay, like this. So now what you can observe is there are two classes, class A and class B. Okay, so now he start asking question like this. So is this valid or not? Okay, he don't ask you to explain theoretically what is a rule. He asks you whether is this correct or not. So if you know the rules, on those basis you can say whether is this valid statement or invalid statement. Okay, so new B of, which means we are creating an object for B class, which is child class. Child class object we are assigning to a variable which is of type as a parent class. When you are assigning the child class object to parent class variable, is this valid or invalid? Answer for your question is valid. Okay, so now what happens when I call obj.m2 of? Will this be successfully compiled or not? He won't ask you whether it will be compiled or not. He will just ask you what is the output. When I execute this program, what will be displayed in the console area? But the answer for that is the program itself will not be compiled, because when you assign child class object to parent class variable, using parent class variable, you can call only the methods which are present in the parent class. When you try to call the methods present in the child class, the program itself will not be compiled. Okay, he will ask you what will be displayed in the console area. But if you know the concept behind that, you can simply say program itself will not be compiled. Okay, the similar way, what happens when I call obj.m1 of? Okay, so he will ask you whether it will it be displaying hi or hello or hey boss. What will be displayed in the console area? What will be displayed here? It will be displaying high. Is it? No. You are assigning the B class object, right? In the B class, what is the implementation of M1? Oh, it will display hey boss. Okay. The rule over here is when you are assigning child class object to parent class variable, and if you are calling any overridden method, when you are calling overridden method, then the overridden logic in the child class will get executed, which means it is going to display hey boss. Okay, say a simple code snippet. He no need to be prepared to ask you to do interview with you. In general, he can just prepare a question on fly, and instead of asking you the rules, he will just give the code snippet like this. Which one is valid, which one is invalid, what will be the, which one will be compiled, which will not be compiled, what is the output displayed. Okay, so questions on core Java, OOPS concepts, polymorphism. Okay, same method name existing in multiple forms is called as polymorphism. Next, come to the concept of interfaces. So what is meant by interface? Interface is a special type of program through which we can hold the requirements. So when I start building an application, I should know what are the features I'm going to work in that application. So based on the requirements, we generate interfaces. Okay, so any application before we work, we should be aware of what is the requirement. So based on those requirements, we come up with writing abstract methods. Okay, and what is the keyword you use in order to relate a class to an interface? What is the keyword? Implements. So we use extends keyword to relate to classes. As the similar way, we use implements keyword in order to relate a class to an interface. In order to relate a class to an interface, we use implements. Okay. The next one is, what is the need of writing abstract classes when you do have interfaces? Okay. You have interfaces to hold the abstract methods. You have normal Java classes to hold the concrete methods. Then what is the need of writing abstract classes? I'm not asking you what is meant by abstract class. I'm asking you what is the purpose of writing abstract class. When is the need of writing abstract class? Okay. So when I have some common implementations for multiple child classes of an interface, instead of writing the same implementation again and again in all the child classes, we can write it once in the parent class, say keep it as an abstract class, and we can reuse that logic in all the child classes. Okay, so to define, I can say class consisting of abstract methods and concrete methods is called as an abstract class, or I can say class partially implementing an interface is called as abstract class, but giving the implementation area, in the sense the purpose of writing abstract class, what are we achieving through using abstract classes, will give better impression. Okay, now some famous interview questions, SCP and heap areas. So they can ask simply string S1 equal to Java, string S2 equal to Java, string S3 equal to new string of Odin. So they can ask you how many memory allocations will be allocated now. How many? It's gonna be 2. One is in the SCP memory area, one is in the heap, or let me keep it like this. String S4 equal to new string of Odin. What happens now? I created 4 variables, S1, S2, S3, S4. I'm asking you how many memories will get allocated. It's gonna be 3. The reason behind is, in case of SCP memory area, when you have variables assigned with same values, then you get memory allocated for the variables only once, and that memory will be referred by both the variables. Okay, so for these 2 variables, I'm going to get memory allocated only once in the SCP. And when you say new, every time you use new keyword, every time you get new memory area allocated. So these two variables will be getting two new memories allocated. Okay, difference between SCP and heap memory areas. Okay, the similar way, immutable. What is meant by immutable? Immutable means unchangeable memory areas. So when you change the value of a variable, the value in the respective memory area will not be changed. Instead, every change you make, we will be getting new memory allocated. Those are called as immutable memory areas. By default, strings are immutable in Java. The reason is there is a chance of having multiple variables pointing to the same memory area. So you should not blindly change the value in that memory. It will have its effect on the other variables. That is the reason in Java they given strings as immutable. If you are making the changes, every change you make, they start allocating new memory internally. Okay. And one more important question, reference comparison and content comparison. So let me give some simple examples. So what happens when I say string S1 equal to Java, and what happens when I say string, let me keep it like this, S2 equal to new string of Java, and say new string of Java. So what happens in this case? And the similar way we'll ask you string S3 equal to Odin, answer string S4 equal to Odin. Okay. And now S1 double equal to S2, what is the result? S1 dot equals of S2, what is the result? I no need to ask you what is meant by reference comparison. I give some simple code snippet like this, and your answer will be giving the answer for reference comparison and content comparison. So what is the output over here? When I call S1 double equal to S2, double equal to will be performing reference comparison. So new keyword, as I said, every time it is going to allocate new memory reference. So when you call double equal to, it returns output as false, because those two variables are pointing to two different memory areas. Whereas a dot equals will be performing the content comparison, checking the values of the variables. So it is going to return output as a true. Okay, like this. And before we move on from OOPS, the very important thing is object class methods. So in Java, we have a class with the name as object, which consists of 11 methods. Be well prepared for all those methods. Okay, so get class and wait, there will be 3 methods. I remember wait of time in milliseconds, wait of time in milliseconds and nanoseconds, notify all, finalize. Okay, and clone method and hash code dot equals methods. So overall there will be 11 methods present in object class. Okay, you should be aware of all those methods. And now, so these are the questions which we can expect from core Java OOPS concepts. The next one is exception handling. See, every interviewer will be having different mindset. I mean, they can prepare different number of questions. I'm not saying these are the only standard questions what we can expect, but I'm saying some general questions to test a fresher. Okay, I'm not saying these are the only questions which they will be asking. In Java to ask, there are thousands of questions. Okay, so as a fresher to start with, okay, how they will be concentrating on all your basics, how they will be testing all your basic skills. Okay, so now when it comes to exception handling, the first question I can ask is, why do we need to perform exception handling in Java? Okay, so whenever some exception occurs, instead of saying some Java related exception has occurred in the program, letting the user to know what is the mistake he made in a user understandable format. That is the basic purpose of doing exception handling. Say I develop an application, when the users are using this application, okay, users may be technical or may not be technical. Okay, users may provide valid inputs, users may provide invalid inputs. When you enter an ATM application, I may give some invalid inputs. Okay. So your application should be responding me in a user understandable manner so that I can come to know what is the mistake I made. Okay. That is the basic purpose of doing exception handling. Okay. And some technical questions, order of catch blocks, in the sense, let me give some simple code snippet. I have that already handy. So look at here. This is a sample code snippet, and I ask you what will be the output of this program. Look at this program. I have a try block. Inside that try, I'm writing a statement, system.out.println 10 by 0. Okay. So 10 by 0 means we get arithmetic exception in Java. So there are a couple of catch blocks. Yes, in Java, one try block can be associated with n number of catch blocks. I may write catch of exception EX, or I may another catch I'm writing as catch of arithmetic exception EX. So in the first catch block, I'm printing some message saying as some exception occurred. In the second catch block, I'm leaving a message, don't divide with 0. Okay. So now when I execute this program, what happens? Okay. So the order of catch blocks is very important when you are writing one try with multiple catch blocks. So the order should always be from child to parent, coming from top to bottom. Okay. If you define the catch blocks from parent to child, it is not allowed. You will be getting compile time error. This is going to be unreachable code. Okay. So the point here is order of catch blocks is equally important when you're associating one try with multiple catch blocks. The similar way, in Java 7, we can write multiple catch blocks in a single multiple exceptions we can handle through a single catch. When you are doing so, there should not be any relation between those exceptions which are writing in a single catch. Again, this program also will not be compiled. Okay. This program also will not be compiled. It is a mistake. Okay. So I don't ask you what is right or what is wrong. I will give you a code snippet. You should know, if you know the rule, you can apply the rule over there and you can give me the answer. Okay. So yes, we can write multiple exceptions in single catch. Okay. But there should not be any relation between the corresponding exceptions which are pipelining. If you have any relationship, the program will not be compiled. Okay. So you guys should be getting some idea how you have to prepare for the interviews. So how much important is you know the concept, that much important is your ability to apply the concept on the examples. Okay. Right. Checked exceptions, unchecked exceptions. So checked exceptions means the exceptions which are checked by Java compiler, whether developer is handling them or not. Okay. These are the behavior for exception classes. If you handle, your program will be compiled. If you don't handle, your program will not be compiled. As simple as that. Okay. So few say these are compile time exceptions. No, no, no. Exceptions occur only during execution time. During compilation time, nothing happens. Those are called as compile time errors. Okay. So it is a mandatory to handle the checked exception. You may handle right at the statement where you are getting compile time error through using try catch, or you may leave to the caller statement to provide its own alternate solution through defining throws declaration for the method signature. That is regarding checked exceptions. Unchecked exceptions, we won't get any compile time error. Okay, so if you make mistake at runtime, your program will be abnormally terminated, which you need to handle it through using try catch. Okay, the next one is user defined exceptions. This is one more key area. Okay, user defined exceptions. The exception classes which are created by developers based on the business rules of an application. Okay. So JVM will execute some statement which is perfectly valid as per Java program. But execution of this statement is mistake as per your application domain rules. Okay, business rules. In such cases, we come up with creating our own exceptions, such are called as user-defined exceptions. And these user-defined exceptions, as I'm saying, we create. So these are not part of Java library. So we have to use a throw keyword. We have to use throw keyword in order to let JVM understand that some user-defined exception has occurred in your program. Okay. And one more important question: difference between final, finally, finalize, finalizer. When you attempt any MCQs, so mostly I can expect this question. Okay, final, finally, finalize, and finalizer. Okay, let me brief them out. So here we go. Final is a predefined keyword which says variables or methods, okay, or classes. They cannot be changed. Okay, so cannot be changed or like I can keep it saying as cannot be updated or overridden. Okay, I'm saying only variables and methods, but even final keyword can be written in before to the class name as well. You guys know, right, what happens when you write final before to the class name? What happens? Class cannot be extended. For example, string in library is a final class, so which you cannot extend. Okay, the similar way, finally, during exception handling process, when you want certain statements to get definitely executed, okay, such statements we write in the finally block. Suppose some connection with respect to some external resources, such things, irrespective of whether exception occurred or doesn't occur, or properly handled or not properly handled, we should close those connections before you terminate. Such things we write in the finally block. Okay, and finalize, during garbage collection process, a thread with the name as a finalizer, which is a part of daemon threads, execute the piece of code in the finalize method and then do memory unallocation. Okay, there is some lengthy concept. What is meant by garbage collection? What is meant by referenced object, unreferenced object, daemon threads? Okay, one by one will be leading to the concepts. Okay, so final, which says this is final, you cannot change it. So every variable in an interface is final, because what you write in an interface is as per client requirements. Requirements are going to be final, you can't change it. The variables, whatever the variables you define in an interface, every variable is public static final. Okay, finally, during exception handling process, if you want to execute some piece of code, definitely whether an exception occurs or an exception doesn't occur in the try block, such piece of code you write in the finally. Finalize, as part of your object before destruction, if you want to execute some piece of code, we write them in the finalize method. Finalizer is the name of a predefined thread. If you see here, this is predefined thread name. Finalize, this is predefined method name. Finally, this is predefined block name. Final, this is predefined keyword. Okay, so you should be having thorough understanding on these: final, finally, finalize, and finalizer. Okay, so I'm moving on to multi-threading. Say different ways of achieving multi-threading. So firstly, what is meant by multi-threading? Okay, executing multiple methods parallelly at a time and independent to each other. Okay, I have a program, I have an application where I have multiple programs. So when there are independent pieces of codes, instead of executing them sequentially, one after other, one after another, one after other, I can create multiple threads which can execute all the methods parallelly at a time, so that the performance of your application will be increased. That is the basic intention of multi-threading. Okay. So how can you achieve multi-threading? What is the importance of start method? There will be some interesting questions actually here. Okay. So what happens when you override start method and call the start method? Okay. Example, let me keep it like this. Say there is a class client1. Okay. So with respect to main method, there is a class client2. Okay. Or okay, client2. I'm saying this class as extends thread class. In this class, I have void display method. And then let me say I overridden start method of thread class. Okay. So in the thread class, we have start method. Suppose in the client2 program, if you override that start method over here, and now in the main method of client1, with the object of client2, say client2 obj equal to new client2 of, with this object, if I call thread class start method, what happens? Will it be creating a new thread? Answer is no, because during overriding, if the method what you are calling is present in your class, then your class method logic will be given priority. It will be executed. JVM won't go to thread class start method. When thread class start method predefined logic is not executed, then there is no point of getting a new thread created. Okay. So this is going to be a sequential execution if you do like this. Okay. Right. And different ways of achieving multi-threading: extends thread, implements runnable. So again, when we have to use extends thread, when we have to use implements runnable. Say when my requirement is I want to achieve multi-threading, but I don't want to use inheritance. Okay, the same scenario. I want to achieve multi-threading, but I don't want to inherit the properties of any other classes. I don't want to do this. If you don't want to do this, then you can happily go for extends thread. Suppose I want your class to be eligible for multi-threading as well as inherit the properties from some other class also. Okay, say class client3, you have to say extends employee as well as achieve multi-threading. In such cases, we use implements runnable. Okay. So when the requirement is I just want to do multi-threading, we go for extends thread. When the requirement is I want to do multi-threading as well as I want to do inheritance, then I go for implements runnable. I go for implements runnable through which I achieve multi-threading as well as I'm able to achieve inheritance also. Okay. And next important question, multi-threading sleep and join method differences. Sleep and join. What is the difference? Both the methods are intended to stop a thread execution for some time, where sleep method stops a thread execution for particular given number of milliseconds, whereas join will be stopping a thread execution till that time other thread execution gets finished, no matter how long it might take. Okay. So initially, I'm just taking you through some theoretical questions. Later, I do have some code snippets as well, which we will be going through them. Okay, some common touch-based areas I'm addressing over here. Okay, and synchronized. You can expect number of questions on this. Synchronized. The famous questions are when a thread is executing a static synchronized method, can any other thread execute another non-static synchronized method or not? What is the answer for this? I have a thread executing synchronized static method. When other thread attempts to execute a synchronized non-static method, what happens? happily both the methods can be executed parallelly at a time. What is the reason? To execute static synchronized method, what do we need? We need class level lock. To execute non-static synchronized method, what do we need? Object level lock. Okay. A static synchronized method means it needs class level lock, and non-static synchronized method means object level lock. So one thread can use this lock and execute the synchronized method. Another thread can use this lock to execute the synchronized non-static method. Okay. So there will be multiple questions on these. When a thread is executing synchronized method, can any other thread execute the non-synchronized method at a time? When a thread is executing static synchronized method, can any other thread execute static synchronized method? So just the combination of the things. Okay. So without lock, with object level lock, with class level lock. On those three, I can mix up and I can give question. Okay. So important thing to be prepared before we go for a Java interview. Okay. So daemon threads, in the sense, some group of threads which gets executed at the background of every program execution. So when I run a program, so usually we say 2 threads are doing execution or few threads are doing execution. But internally what happens is, in order to support smooth execution of your program, we used to have some group of threads executed, which are called as daemon threads. So one thread among those daemon threads is finalizer. Okay, which I explained you just before when I was discussing on final, finally, finalize, and finalizer. Okay, the next one is collections. Okay, so OOPS concepts, exception handling, collections, very, very important things in Java interview. Okay, collections. So basically, why are we coming for the concept of collections? The basic question. So to hold some group of values, yes, we have arrays. Then why are we coming for collections? In the sense, when the requirement is to hold group of values, say homogeneous group of values or heterogeneous group of values, without any limit in size. That's where we go for the concept of collections. And every collection, almost every collection can do that. Then why do we have these many types of collections? So that's where you have to explain one by one collection importance. So list, it stores the data with including duplicate values. Set, it stores the data through removing the duplicate values. Map, it stores the data in terms of key and value pairs. When the requirement is, I want to get the information from the database with respect to role and multiple users associating with that role. So developer is a key, and all the objects which are belonging to developer role is the data which is associated with this key. Okay. So like that, when I want to pull the data from the from database, okay, in terms of key and value pairs, that is where basically we use map type of collections. I don't say database, just when you want to hold the data in terms of key and value pairs, we go for map type of collection. Okay. So what is the difference in between a hash set and tree set? Hash set, it stores the data through using hash code of the objects actually internally. So it won't maintain any order. Whereas a tree set stores the data in a sorted fashion. Okay. So if it is a raw type of data in the respective wrapper classes, we used to have comparative method in which we will be having predefined sorting logic defined. Suppose if you are working with respect to objects, then we have to make your respective classes implements comparable interface, and in the comparative method, you have to define the sorting logic saying that with respect to which property of the class you want to sort the objects. Just let me give I can't give examples for every, but I have few examples which I can directly show you. Okay. So importance of comparable. Okay. So when I have don't I have the class defined over here? It's okay, just a minute. Collections, right? Given a class, when I want to sort the objects of a class with respect to certain property of a class, then what we do is we make the class implements a comparable interface, and in the respect to comparative method, we are going to define the sorting logic. Here we are going to say with respect to which property of the class you want to sort the data. So through using that logic, treeset is going to sort the data. And here the importance of hash code and dot equals, which is very important. How set is going to identify them as duplicates. If you give two objects to hash set, any set type of collection, how are they going to decide whether two objects are duplicates or not? What is the role of hash code and equals methods over here? That is very important. Okay. Same hash map and tree map. Hash map won't follow any order, whereas a tree map will follow sorting order of the keys. Okay, so these are some important questions on Java, core Java, and the next comes to Java 8 features. Okay, so what are the Java 8 features that you have worked on? Okay, so what is meant by functional interface? What is meant by reference operator? And lambda expressions, stream API, very, very important one, stream API. Okay, so what is the difference between collections and streams? Simple question. Collections is to hold group of data. Streams are to process the data which we are holding in the collection in a simplified and in a more robust way. Okay, so in a faster way we can operate on the data. Okay, stream API provides multiple methods through which we can achieve the requirement in a easier way. Okay, so stream API consists of number of methods: filter, count, limit, group by, order by. Okay, there will be different methods which are present in stream API. So have a work on all those methods. I do have some code snippets ready on those as well. Okay, so count methods, some challenging and interesting questions as well when it comes to stream API. So like this, count the number of words in a given sentence. We can do it without Java 8 and with Java 8 as well. Okay, so if they want to test your skills, they will give a question and they will ask you to answer it with Java 8 and without Java 8. Okay, simple question I do have somewhere. I will show you that. Control F, Java 7. Sorry. Somewhere I should be having it. I lost it somewhere. So like this, given a requirement, they can ask you to do it in Java 7 and Java 8 as well. So just to test your application things. Yeah, this is what I mean to say. Remove duplicate words in a given sentence in Java without using Java 8 and with using Java 8. If you use Java 8, yes, there are stream API methods which are directly available for you to help you out to achieve this in a single line. Without using Java 8, then you have to use the traditional set type of collection, which will be helping you to remove the duplicates. Okay, so be well prepared on functional interfaces, lambda expressions. What is the need of having static methods, static concrete methods, default concrete methods in a functional interface? When do we write functional interfaces? Okay, so what is the importance of lambda expressions, the syntax of it, and stream methods and date enhancements, what you got in Java 8. Okay, streams and parallel streams. Okay, optional in Java 8. These are the key areas which you have to concentrate for a Java full stack interview. When you say that I'm good at Java 8, okay, then make sure you are prepared on all those. So with this, my basic Java interview is finished. Okay, so questions on Java. I started with OOPS concepts I digged into all OOPS features, and then exception handling, touch base on multi-threading, and collections, comparator, comparable, and hash set and dot equals methods, and different types of collections, and Java 8 features. Okay. So now let's go into SQL. For a fresher, right? First we'll start with Java, and then the second important thing is SQL. So if you are good in answering Java, and if you're good in writing some, at the end I said, right, they will be giving some sample programs. Okay. If you are able to do that, so I can say 70% of your interview is finished. Okay. The rest all are good that you know them. Okay. And it gives difference between multiple candidates who are who made up for the interview. Okay. But primarily we will look for core Java, SQL questions, and programmatic answers. Okay, some sample questions, your analytical and logical thinking. That is very important. Okay, so in SQL also, so I don't say what is left join, what is right join. I don't ask it. I ask why do we need to apply joins on tables? When you have different tables, happily you can write queries on individual tables to get the data right. Then what is the use, what is the need of this joins concept? The need is through a single query at a time when I want to fetch the data from multiple related tables. From multiple related tables. That's when we use joins. Okay. So the difference between inner join, left join, right join, and all you can explain through some examples. Okay. And the similar way, subqueries. When do we need to, what is the purpose of writing subqueries? Why do we need to write subqueries? When the input that is given to your query is indirect inputs. Okay, example, pull the data from employee table who are earning salary greater than 7,000. So you are comparing salaries, you are given with 7,000 value, then you can simply write a normal query. Okay. Oh, 1 minute, please. Yes, I'm back. Okay. So when you are asked to write a query to give the information of employees who are earning salary greater than 7,000, then we can simply write a query, select a star from employee where salary is greater than 7,000. It is pretty much straightforward. Okay. Suppose you are asked to get the information of all employees who are earning salary greater than Harika's salary. So you have to compare salaries, and the input given is employee name. This is called as indirect inputs. Okay. Direct input means the column on which you are operating, the value received is of the same column type, then we call it as direct column, direct inputs. Suppose if the input given is of some other column type, and you have to query the data with respect to some other column, then this is called as indirect inputs. In such cases, we come across the need of writing subqueries. Okay. So from there on, you can explain different subqueries, single row, multi-column, and more importantly, correlated subquery. What is that? Correlated subquery. Okay. The subqueries which will be executed through relating the data with the main query. Okay. The best example we can give is get the information of all employees who are earning the salary greater than their manager's salary. You see, my subquery cannot be executed independently. This can be executed only through relating the data with the main table. Okay. So look at here. I have an employee table. In the employee table, the data is employee ID, employee name, salary, bonus, department ID, manager ID. Okay. So now I want to get the information of all employees who are earning salary greater than their manager's salary. So first I have to write a query to find out my manager's salary. Based on that, I can find out the information of employees who are earning the salary greater than their manager's salary. Okay. The subqueries which cannot be executed independently and which will be executed through relating the data with the main query, such are called as correlated subqueries. Such are called as correlated subqueries. Okay. The next one is constraints. Oh, I'm sorry. Just give me a minute, please. Yes, I'm back. Nothing. Just my kids woke up. Okay. So subqueries. So we discussed regarding what is the, when we have to write subqueries. Okay. So when the input given is indirect input, that's when we have to write subqueries. Okay. And correlated subquery, which is a bit different from normal subqueries. Okay. And why do we need to write constraints? Okay, basically what are constraints? Constraints are the rules that we apply on the tables in order to avoid junk data. Okay, so to avoid bad data, we apply rules on the tables which are called as constraints. So primary key, foreign key, not, null, unique, all those constraints you can apply over, you can explain them over here. Okay, as I said at the beginning of the session, avoid giving one-line answers. Just try to elaborate as much as you can. Okay. And rank and dense rank. Yes, one of the very important interview questions. Okay. So here you can see rank and dense rank. When you call rank, what happens is it starts calculating the next rank through counting the duplicates as well. So when I say dense rank, what happens is it is going to give the next rank over here. So this person will be getting the rank of 3. Okay. Whereas if you go for dense rank, it is going to give this person a rank of 4. Okay, with an example. So through taking some simple data as a reference, you can explain him what is the difference in between rank and dense rank. Okay, so one thing which you have to be prepared for. Okay, so these are SQL concepts which are good enough to know for a developer. Okay, SQL we can have in 2 ways. One is if you're applying for a role of SQL admin, then you need to know many other things as well as part of SQL language. But if you're applying as a developer, so these are the few key things on which you have to concentrate. Okay. So the database could be any database, MySQL, Oracle, DB2, but the concept is very important. Okay. So the next part is Java frameworks. Okay. As I said, the key thing is core Java and next SQL and the sample programs. Okay. So concentrate majorly on these, and later you can work on learning frameworks. Okay. So what is Spring? What are beans in Spring? What is meant by dependency injection? Different types of injection, auto wiring, the difference in between by type of auto wiring, by name of auto wiring, and constructor auto wiring. And by default, how Spring follows auto wiring. Okay. So just have a work around, be prepared on those topics. And different annotations. So the important questions are related. Give the difference in between @ component and @ repository. Okay. Or give the difference in between @ component and @ bean. Okay. Very important things. I do have some answers for them. I will share them with you a later point of the session. At the rate of component means we just get objects created for the classes. So at the rate of repository means this is going to have JDBC template, data source available through which we can communicate with respect to database. And internally it is going to handle some checked exceptions as well into unchecked exceptions. Okay. So a few more key things will be added apart from just object creation. Okay. So difference between controller, service, repo, component, all these are very important. Okay. At the rate of bean, we define before to a factory method which can return me an object of a class. So for that we use at the rate of bean. And JDBC template, we use JDBC template to communicate with the database from a Spring JDBC project. Okay. So what is the difference in between row mapper and result set extractor? Row mapper maps a row of data into Java class objects. So what is the difference in between normal JDBC and Spring JDBC? Why are we coming for frameworks? Okay. So in normal JDBC, the common logics and application specific logics, developers only needs to handle. We need to write some lengthy piece of code to handle all the logics. But when it comes to Spring JDBC, developer can just concentrate on addressing application specific logics where common logics can be addressed by framework. Okay. So row mapper, which maps a row of data into an object, result set extractor, which can extract all the results into group of objects in a single shot. Okay. Some collection of objects we can get when you operate with result set extractor in a single shot. JMS, Java messaging service. Okay. I said optional, right? In those you will be coming across JMS, Spring AOP. Okay. So few other key things of Spring framework. Spring consists of different modules. Okay. Java messaging service. When I want to communicate in between different Java projects asynchronously, I give a message and I may expect message some other time. I maybe quickly or may not be quickly. Synchronous communication means through using REST template, I hit a web service, I get the response immediately. The moment when I hit a web service, if the web service is not up and running, I will get 404 response status saying that, hey boss, the resource which you requested for is not available now. That's it. Communication ended. Asynchronous communication means I send some data. I'm not concerned about whether this application is up and running or not. The data is going to be held by the messaging servers, ActiveMQ, RabbitMQ, Kafka, different messaging servers. Whenever this application gets interacted with this messaging server will be taking care of delivering the data. Okay, like that, without losing the communication between the applications, we use the concept of JMS, Java messaging service. Here you can expect the questions of what is meant by serialization, what is meant by deserialization. So what is the role of serial version UID during this process? And the similar way, when to use queues, when to use topics. Okay, all of them you can expect over here. The similar way, web services. So basically what is meant by web service? In core Java, we write normal Java programs with main method, right? Those programs we write, and for those programs, if I want to read any input from the user, we used to read them from console area through using scanner, and we write the output back to the console area. Okay. So we can develop only standalone applications. We can't execute them from the browser. So when you want to develop web applications, you should have endpoints exposed which can be executed anytime from the browser. For such reasons, we come for web services. The methods which can be executed over the web, over the browser, okay, through deploying them in the servers, such are called as web services. So we can develop them in different ways. REST web services, SOAP web services. We don't have SOAP anymore in the current market now. Earlier, before to the Spring framework, we used to have Struts framework. At that time, we used to have JSP leading the front end. During that time, we used to have this SOAP communication of data in XML format. But once from the year 2012 or 2013, so UI frameworks entered into the market like Angular, React, Extension JS, different UI frameworks. So now most of the communication in between browser and server is happening with respect to JSON formats, which are REST web services. And now slowly the REST web services are also getting migrated to microservices, so that we can make application in a more independent way, independent building blocks. Okay, instead of building whole application into one WAR file and pushing into the server, I can make my application to be deployed independently, okay, in terms of multiple blocks, so that if there is something wrong happening in one menu of my application, without disturbing the entire application, I can just stop only this service from the application without having any disturbance to the entire other part of application. Try to have some clear definition. I mean, it's you don't need to give textbook definitions. It's all about showing the problem and addressing the problem with answer. Okay, so REST services means if something is going wrong in one screen, I have to redeploy the entire WAR file. Okay, I have to stop the server and I have to deploy entire WAR file. Whereas in case of microservices, I can build them in terms of individual pieces. Which piece is not working, I can just operate only on that piece without disturbing the rest of the pieces in the application. They can work normally without any disturbance. Piece in the sense, say I'm building one application which is having 4 or 5 menu items, 4 or 5 screens where user can interact with. So when there is issue with one screen, the rest of the screens no need to be disturbed. That is the intention of microservices. Microservice architecture and monolithic architecture with respect to REST services. Okay, and Spring Boot, it's the latest methodology of building the Spring applications. So what are the benefits we are achieving with it, and how the things are becoming easy? No more XML configurations. Okay, so all such advantages of Spring Boot, and particularly different new annotations which are introduced as part of Spring Boot, all those have a workaround on them. Okay, so timing is nearing 5:30. Let me have a high-level walkthrough on all the technologies. And the next one is Hibernate. Okay, so whenever I say Hibernate, the basic questions are session methods. Okay, and get and load difference. Get will be giving null if there is no data available in the database. Load will be giving object not found exception. Where what is meant by lazy loading, what is meant by early loading in Hibernate. Okay, and the difference between update and merge methods in Hibernate. The concept of projections. Okay, this is very important. Okay, you can give some elaborate answer on that. Okay, so when we have to use update, when update doesn't work, why it doesn't work. Okay, what is cache in Hibernate, all that stuff you can cover over here. So projections, when I want to get the data of specific columns, not all the data. When I simply say session.get of student.class, 101, I will be getting whole the record of 101 from the student table into a Java class object. Suppose say my table is having 15 columns, but I just need student roll number and marks. If you call student.get, it will give you the whole 15 columns of data into one object. Okay, but you use the concept of projections, you can select only the columns what you need to get from the table. Okay, rejections, through which you can write more conditions to filter the data. Okay, so we can write more and more conditions based on the requirements to filter the data while fetching from the database using Hibernate. Okay, associations, one to one, one to many, many to one, many to many. Okay, be prepared with at least one concrete example for one relationship, for one association. So one to one, I can say one employee holding one PAN card. One to many, I can say one cart holding many items. Many to one, I can say many students join one course. Many to many, I can say many students join many courses. Okay, so whatever the concept you want to say, be prepared with some examples on that, and explain different annotations, what we need to use over here, at the rate of entity, at the rate of table, at the rate of ID, at the rate of column, at the rate of one-to-one, whatever the association you want to define, at the rate of primary key join column, at the rate of join column, lazy loading, early loading, and fetch types will be there. Okay, fetch type lazy, fetch type eager, and mapped by column will be there. Okay, there are different annotations, okay, which we use. So have a good walkthrough of all the annotations which we need to use in order to create the entity classes in Hibernate. Okay, I cannot cover all, but what suggestion I can give you is, when they ask you some concept, try to give more elaborate answer. Try to get the answers from the work that you did. Okay, so don't read the notes. Try to do hands-on. Type the programs. The more you type the programs, everything will strike your mind. To achieve many to many, what I have to do? I have to take a class, map to a table. To map a class to a table, what are the annotations I need? And I have to build an intermediate table which holds the relationship. For that, what are the annotations I need? At the rate of many to many, at the rate of join column, inverse join column. Okay. The more you do hands-on typing, the more the things what you used will strike your mind. Okay. So particularly programming, right? Don't read or don't by heart. The thing is, try to do more and more examples. Okay. Right. This is with this, I'm stopping with the backend parts, Java backend developer. Okay. So coming to the front end. Okay. So just on a high level, HTML. So what is HTML used for? To develop the web pages. Okay. So what are different tags? Okay. How do we build tables? So you know difference between row span and call span. Difference between row span and call span. So row span in the sense, when I want to make single cell to occupy for multiple rows space, we go for row span. When I want to make a single cell to occupy for multiple columns space, we go for call span. Okay. So div and span, you can quickly draw some simple diagram. Okay. You can take a paint and you can show some overview how the data will look like when I say row span, how the data will look like when I say call span. Okay. With some examples. So div and span. So div element acts as a container to occupy certain space in the screen. Okay. So when I want to show some group of elements together, for that we use a div. It's a block level element. Span is an inline element which is used to show the messages, some text content on the browser. The example is, I build a login screen. In that login screen, I want to have all these. So here you see I'm building a login screen. So where I have an area of where I'm building username element, password element, and a submit button. So hold all these elements together. I may place over here. I may place very left. I may place very right. Okay, or I may place at the center of the screen. You see, group of elements together wherever I want to place. All these elements together, I can hold them through a div element. Okay, group of HTML elements on the page together, I can hold them with respect to a container type of element saying as a div. Okay, it gives some sense, right? How are we using div? Okay, the similar way, span, that is, once you click on submit button, if your credentials are invalid, dynamically I should be writing some data below to the submit button saying as invalid credentials. To hold such a text data, okay, we should have a placeholder over there. For that, we define the span elements. Okay, I mean to say we should have some label defined over there. If you do have some element, into that element, dynamically I can write whatever the data I want to write onto the browser. Okay, so block level elements, inline elements. Okay, so CSS. So just to have some basic idea, what is box model? So what is the difference between padding and margin? Okay, same the famous question from the on CSS. Before I just want to go in depth into CSS, what is difference between padding and margin? How can I generate over scroll bar? Suppose I have a table, so where with some filter conditions from the backend, I'm getting thousands of records. All the thousands of records when I'm showing in terms of table, the data in the table is overflowing the screen size. Okay, so this is your screen. Say this is your screen in the browser, and this is the table data. So let me say from the backend, I'm getting number of records, due to which the data in the table is overflowing your screen size like this. Then what you have to do? Okay, it doesn't make sense, right? If your data is crossing the background screen, you have to define overflow scroll, through which we can set up some scroll bar over there, so that your data is not going to overflow the base screen size. Okay, so with some examples, you should answer in such a way. Okay, how to apply background colors, how to apply background images, linear gradient, and display block, display inline block. When do we use them? And float left, float right, margin auto, when we use them, and cursors. Okay, if you just go through W3 schools, there will be a number of properties available. You can just try to have a good understanding on every property. So it's not about just understanding, but the application areas, how you can apply them. Okay, like that. The next one is optional to have Bootstrap. Bootstrap is a CSS framework. Okay, so through which we can get some ready-made features available. Okay, so I want to develop a login screen. So where I want to have a text box like this. I want to have a text box with certain space, rounded borders, and certain padding, certain margin, all that stuff. If I go for CSS, I have to start writing every CSS property to achieve this. But when you use Bootstrap, you will be having ready-made CSS classes available. When you apply them, you will be getting many properties applied on that respective elements. Okay, so Bootstrap classes, and how we used to divide the page, okay, in terms of 12 columns to achieve responsive web pages. Okay, what is meant by responsiveness? How are we achieving with Bootstrap? Without Bootstrap, if you want to achieve responsiveness, how are we going to use media queries? Okay, such things just have a high level understanding. Okay, for any UI framework, okay, starting from 2012 till 2022, there are number of UI frameworks which came into market. Okay, initially, earlier we used to have JSP, jQuery for long period of time. Starting from 2012, once Angular came into market, from there on, we got number of UI frameworks. Okay, the problem for UI developer is, if you are working as just a UI developer, so today you are working on some framework, over the years, you can't ensure that this is the one which is going to rule the market still. No, that's what happened with Angular. So many of my friends were experts in Angular. Initially, we were expert in Angular JS. We used to build some custom directives, very big custom directives, to have the code reusable, to build reusable components across multiple screens of the application. All of a sudden, Angular JS migrated from JavaScript to TypeScript. That's it. There is no more concept of custom directives in Angular. Okay, many things changed. The similar way, once we are expert in Angular, now slowly market is going towards React. Tomorrow some other framework will come. But the point I want to say is, any framework you may work on, your interview is going to be on your JavaScript skills. Okay, so JavaScript is such important. Okay, so JavaScript is such important, whatever the framework you may work on. Why? Because frameworks may change now and then, but the core technology on which the frameworks are getting built, that is important for a developer. Okay, so difference between JavaScript and TypeScript. Okay, and DOM. Okay, how DOM operates, different ways of accessing the data from the DOM, and difference between splice and slice, set timeout, set interval. Set timeout in the sense, when I want to operate certain functionality, okay, after some period of time. Let me say I'm writing some online examination where the exam is for a duration of 2 hours. I started my exam at 4 o'clock. Right at 5:55, I want to get some alert pop-up saying that, hey boss, you are about to finish in 5 minutes. For that, we use set timeouts. Okay. We can execute certain piece of code after some time duration. For that, we use set timeouts. Set interval. I want to execute some piece of code for every 5 seconds, for every 10 seconds over a period of time. Okay. So usually how it works means there will be dashboard screens where we load the data in the, we show the data in the browser. Oh, good example, ESPN Cricket Info. We all follow cricket commentary in Cricket Info, right? For every second or 2 seconds, the data gets reloaded, right? So set interval through which we can do some action over a period of time continuously. For that, we use set interval. Okay. That's it I prepared, but there are a few more saying as a jQuery, good to have, but not that important in the ones as we got many front-end frameworks in the markets. And more importantly, TypeScript is one more thing. So TypeScript in the sense, the object-oriented way of writing JavaScript. Okay, so the key points in TypeScript and Angular. So basically, what is the purpose of writing using a framework in front-end? Okay, as a fresher, they don't expect you to be master, but they want you to have an idea of why are you using this. Okay, to build a full-fledged application with all the features. Okay, so when we are working on 2 or 3 screens of an application, simple HTML, CSS, JavaScript, jQuery can do for us. You don't need to depend on big frameworks. But when you want to build a more robust application, which you want to have them in live usage, so for that, we need many more features. Okay, all of them are going to be built when we use certain framework. That is the reason behind going for frameworks. What are those features that the framework provides? Okay, so you can elaborate one by one. Data binding, interpolation, services, pipes, okay. Different concepts. How are we integrating to the backend? Observable, okay, subscribe method, different other Angular validations. So how we used to perform validations without Angular in plain JavaScript to do validations. What are the different steps we are having in Angular? How are we overcoming all those steps? Okay, so like that you have to, whenever you are saying something, so try to give without this framework what is the hard process you need to follow. But once these got introduced in the market, how are we overcoming them? Okay, that gives the impression of, yes, you understand what you are doing. You know the pain of what happens if you don't use this. Okay, that is very important. Angular, right? Say data binding. Okay, so communication of data between component class and HTML elements is called as data binding. One-way data binding, two-way data binding. Okay, and predefined directives, ng for why we need to use this. Instead of writing same HTML piece of code again and again, when you have redundant code, to overcome that, we use this Angular predefined directives. ng for, ng if, ng else, ng switch, ng class. Okay, and pipes concepts. Okay, so when you want to have some custom behavior for different elements, you can define a pipe and you can define its behavior and you can apply that pipe on the different Angular elements. Okay, and the similar way, services concept, very, very important in Angular. You are building an Angular application where you are building 4 menu items, 4 screens in an Angular application. You have some common logic in all the 4 screens. Instead of writing the same piece of code again and again in every .ts file, you can just extract that common piece of code to one place, which is called as service. Here, the concept of injectable annotation is very important. If you create a service, if you just remove this annotation, it doesn't work. Okay, services are intended to be injected in the components because we go for the concept of services for code reusability across multiple components of Angular application. Okay, we segregate all the common things in one place. If you are not able to inject this in all these places, then you can't use this, right? Okay, so in order to use this in all other components, this is by default. Whenever you create a service, it comes with this annotation at the rate of injectable. What is the use of at the rate of injectable means? In order to ensure this can be reused across all the components of your application wherever you want. Okay, so how are we going to handle when you have common logic across multiple components? The similar way, how are you going to handle when you're having some common HTML piece of code across multiple components? For that, we create custom components, right? We create one component, we segregate all the HTML piece of code over there, and we can do to and fro communication. You remember at the rate of input, at the rate of output, event emitter, okay, through which we can do to and fro communication. Okay, and Angular validations. Okay, we have different types of validations in Angular. Okay, so how we do validations, and without Angular, and how are we doing validations with Angular? Okay, and pipes, right here, just remember pure pipes, impure pipes. Okay, and some famous interview questions are decorators and interceptors. So as I said, if you start doing applications, that's when you can understand interceptors, right? Every time when I'm giving backend web, every time when I'm giving a call to the backend web services, I should hold some session ID, which is going to validate this request is valid. Okay, to carry such informations. Okay, that's where we use the interceptors. So decorators, different annotations we use on top of component classes which define the behavior of them. Okay, and HTTP integration, how are we doing the integration? Here one very important concept. So if I take class, I will take 1 hour class on this observable. Such an important concept it is. What happens if you use observable? What happens if you don't use observable? Okay, so subscribe callback functions. And course policy error. If I want you to test as a full stack developer, I will just ask the simple question. Okay, so the one who is working on integrating these two, they will be knowing this error. So at the back end, we have to use at the rate of cross origin on top of your web services. If you don't use, we get this error. Okay, when you want to allow the request to your server from other servers, you have to define it cross origin. Okay, that's it. And at the end, they will be giving some simple programs. Write a program to find whether given string is a palindrome or not. mom. You go from this side, you go from opposite side, it is the same. So through your program, you have to say whether given string is palindrome or not. Write a program to give some design patterns like this. I thought of sharing all these code snippets, but just having the overview from all the concepts end to end itself took this much of time. When we get a chance, we will work on the code snippets as well at a point of time like this. Write a program to develop this pattern. Okay, so write a program to count number of words in a given sentence and swap to numbers without using third variable. Fibonacci series. Okay, some puzzles. Okay, what happens is in string buffer, if you open the library class, dot equals method is not overridden. So this returns output as a false. So only if you know that information, you can say this as false. Otherwise, we can blindly say this as a true. But actual output is false. I thought of explaining all this through opening the library classes, but it's okay. I given a brief idea of how it will be. The interview would be when you're working when you apply for a Java full stack role. Okay. In similar way, we have few minutes left. Let me take you through these as well. So these are all technical questions. Okay. So take my word, if you're good in core Java, SQL, and if you're able to write the programs which should be compiled and executed successfully, okay, if you showcase your logical thinking and if you showcase your application areas, you are good enough. Okay, the rest all also, again, they play 30% of role in your interview. Okay, you should be having good understanding of them. Okay, but without having good understanding on these three, even if you're expert in framework, it's of no use. Okay, so you know all Spring definitions. but you are not able to write a program to generate Fibonacci series of a given number. Okay, it gives a lot of difference. Okay, so as a fresher, try writing number of examples. If you just Google it out, you will be having n number of programmatic questions. Okay, you may not know all, but the more you work on, the more good you will be. Okay, and so version control tools. Okay, SVN, Git. Okay, so different Git commands. So as a developer, once you, if you are an experienced person, right? So once you're done with the task, what you will do? You stage your changes, you commit your changes, you pull the latest code, and then you push your changes. What happens if you don't take pull and push your changes? What is meant by merge conflict? If you get merge conflict, how are you going to resolve it? CI/CD tools. What is the purpose of continuous integration, continuous deployments? So I have a team where 4 guys are working. Everyone did 4 things today. Tomorrow, when I start working on an application, I want to get the collaborate work of all these 4 guys into one place. So for that, we do git commits to one central repository, and then we run the pipelines. We may use Jenkins pipelines, or we may use Azure DevOps pipelines. Okay, through which we can merge all the code into single place. Okay, we will be having different staging environments, right? Development environment, testing environment, UAT testing, prod environments. Okay, how to move the code means we don't manually place the code over there. We just develop a Azure DevOps pipeline, and we run the pipelines which will be pushing the changes from one repo to other repo. Okay, so this is one more important thing, unit testing, particularly if you are experienced. Okay, what is the difference between unit testing and integration testing? So what is meant by mocking? And this is one thing which I can take 30-40 minutes discussion. Mocking. Okay, so what are the different mocking frameworks we have? Mockit or JMockit likewise. So you may not be expert on all those, but you should have basic understanding of why are we mocking, how mocking is going to do unit testing. Scrum methodologies. So again, if you're experienced, so how are you following the Scrum methodologies in your project? So what do you do in backlog refinements? What do you do in sprint grooming? Who will be participants in sprint grooming? Who will be participants in sprint planning? Scrum calls, sprint demo. Also, we used to have at the end of a sprint, we used to have sprint demo, sprint retrospective. What do you do in retrospective meeting? Okay. So these also play 10% role of your interview. Okay, these are also important. If 2 guys are doing all good, and if 1 guy is very good at all these things, then he will be given high priority. Okay, so because they don't want you to teach all these, you should be aware of. If you're experienced, I mean to say, if you're fresher, yes, it takes some time during induction programming, or the more you spend time on your project, you will be getting them. Okay, and some behavioral questions. Where do you want to see yourself after 3 years? Okay, like that, I prepared some questions on that as well. Okay, what do you do if you're not getting enough support from your team? Justify yourself. How can you upgrade yourself if you get a new technology or framework into your project? As a developer, what gives you more interest? Like that, they will ask some questions, but they are all for testing your mental stability. I mean, how are you answering the questions? That's it. Okay. So all the best, everyone. So prepare in these lines. I don't say these are the only things which we need to prepare, but up to my knowledge, with my experience, few things which I want to suggest you guys are given. I try to put you all these in front of you. Okay, just the structure of a Java interview format. Okay, how they start with, what are the key things that will they will be covering on now. So not 100% I may help you, but at least it would be great if I help you 70% of your interview with respect to these sessions. Okay, I believe that. So yep, that's all I'm having. Thank you.
Thank you, Babu. Thank you so much for the valuable information. So, guys, we'll go for a short break of 15 minutes, and we will be back after 15 minutes. So, we will have presentations, soft skills training, session on soft skills. Shruthi will be taking care of that session. So, we'll go for a short break for 15 minutes, and we'll be back after that. Thank you.
అలాగే 2 hours సరిపోదన్నారు. అక్కడ ఏం చెప్పాలి?
Hi all, welcome back. We'll continue with the soft skills session. We have Shruthi with us. Over to you, Shruthi.
Thanks, Prasad. Hi, everyone. Hope you're all doing good. You just had a 2-hour session on the technical skills that you need to get a job in Java full stack technology. In this session, we'll discuss something else, right? Because while technology is definitely important, your technical competence is definitely important, there are certain other things also that are considered when you go for an interview. So we'll look at all those, and I can read your chats on YouTube. So in case there are any questions and you type it there, I will be able to take that up and answer. So are we good to go? Let me share my screen. All right. So all right, can I have somebody type something in the chat, please? Just hi or something. If you can hear me properly. Okay, great. So OdinSchool, basically, the way we are building the organization, or the way we are running these programs, the fundamental idea is to become a destination for career transformations, right? So we want people who want to transform their careers either from different fields into Java full stack, or who want to grow in their career. We really want to facilitate these kind of career transformations. And the job fair that we're organizing is an attempt to help people make this career transformation, because as an organization, we work with over 250 companies all over India, and we know the kind of job potential that exists in this technology, especially Java full stack. It's kind of an evergreen field, right? Although the technology keeps evolving, higher versions, more advanced versions keep coming in, but Java, the full stack of Java as a technology is an evergreen thing, and it's a really good technology to start a career with. Hi, Lavkush Mishra. Hi, Akshay. Good evening. Good to see some interactions. So keep this interaction going. So, like I was saying, the companies that we work with, there are thousands of jobs available, right? Now, how do you actually grab those jobs? People talk about skill gap. People talk about shortage of skill resources. On the other hand, we have people who are skilled in these technologies. So this job fair is an attempt for us to get both these sides together and ensure that lot of people who are aspiring for a good career in Java full stack are able to get good jobs through this. Now, if I can ask, okay, let's just start with this and then probably we'll see. What do you see here on the screen? Can I have someone answer this? So imagine, can you see 2-3 elements on the screen here? Vivek, Akshay, Lakush. Is it possible to respond? Okay. So what we basically see here on the screen is a showroom, right? It's an electronics showroom. And when you listen to what I'm saying, the story that I'm telling around this, I want you to put yourself in the shoes of the salesperson who's working in that shop. Okay. Now you are the salesperson who's in the shop, and your job is to sell products to customers who walk into your store, right? Now imagine that different customers are coming to the store to buy a laptop, okay? And different customers are of different types, right? Now let us take 4 different cases and understand this, and I would like you to connect this example to your interview preparation and interview presentation, all right? Now, the first picture that you see there, it's a family, right? It's a couple with 2 small children. Now imagine these people are walking into the store and asking for a laptop. The second picture that you see is a young guy, a college-going guy, who is walking into the store to buy a laptop. Everybody has the same need. The third is a modern-looking guy, probably interested in music and hip-hop kind of culture, and he also walks into the store looking for a laptop. And then you have an elderly person who's also coming to the shop looking for a laptop. Okay. Now I want you to think about this. As a salesperson in that shop, how will you pitch your laptop to each of these 4 customers? Okay. If you can get the logic behind that, it is the same logic that you will apply to your presentation in your interview also. Now, probably for the first customers, the family that you see, you'll probably talk about features like child-friendly. It has certain privacy features that can prevent children from accessing certain things. At the same time, there are a lot of features that, like video calling facility and all that people can use and all these kind of things. For the second customer, probably you'll be talking about the laptop being compatible to downloading latest technologies and all that. For the third customer, you'll probably pitch how it has a really good multimedia system. It is very compatible for video recordings and music systems and all that. And probably for the fourth customer, you talk about how it is easy to use and it is uncomplicated, and how they can use it for multiple things at a very basic level. So basically the point of this discussion is the same product is pitched differently to different customers, right? Now, how do we relate this to an interview experience? Why am I talking about all this to an interview experience? Now, what exactly is an interview? An interview is a transaction, right? So there is a person who's willing to give something, and there is a person who is taking something. So there is a give and take happening in the interview process, right? Which is a transaction. Now, each company, now imagine you are the person who's trying to convince the other person that I'm good for this. Like you're selling a laptop, right? So you're selling your skills here. When I say selling, I mean it in a good way. I mean you're trying to convince somebody that I am good for this. Now, these 4 customers that you see, compare them to different companies, right? Every company has a different requirement. Every company has a different culture. So if you really want to crack interviews, you have to start by understanding what the company needs and pitch your skills accordingly. Okay. Now, since you're all aspirants of the job fair that we're conducting, our website has job descriptions of every company who's participating in this job fair, right? So just go through all the job descriptions and see, you'll notice that different companies are asking for different things. Okay. Now, when you get an interview call, when we, after this process is over, we are going to shortlist your interviews. We are going to send your resumes, shortlist your resumes, and we're going to send your resumes to different companies based on how your profile is matching to what the company needs, right? And then you will start getting calls from companies for interviews. Now, before that, it is very important that you go through all the things, see where you're suitable, where your skills are matching, and understand the company's requirements. That is when you'll be able to do a really good interview. Okay, it is just like you can't sell a product to all customers in the same way. Like that only, you cannot pitch your skills to all the companies in the same way. You have to customize. You have to talk about things that the company needs from you. That is what an interview is all about. If you can crack this code, it's actually easy. It's not very difficult to crack interviews, right? So let's move ahead. Now, when you're going for an interview, it is very important for you to remember that for the interviewer, right, for the company that you're trying to get into, you are an investment. Okay. And when I say investment, I don't just mean the money factor. A company invests in its people, in training them and preparing them to be a good resource, right? There is a place that you fit into in the team in that company, right? So all these are time, effort, money, everything is being invested into you. Now the interviewer will have only one question in mind when he's looking at you. And that question is, are you a good investment? Right? Those of you today, if you invest into something, right, whether it is land or whether it is stocks or bitcoins or cryptocurrency, whatever you invest into, as an investor, your question is, am I making the right investment? Now, for an interviewer, for a company, they're making an investment by taking you into their company, right? So this will be the same question that will be in their mind as well. Are you a good investment? So what you have to do is convince them that, yes, I am a good investment. And if you take me on your roles, if you hire me, I'm going to give you returns that are multiple times whatever you're investing in. Right? Now, when you're sitting in front of the interviewer, there are a lot of things that are going on in the interviewer's mind, right? So what all is the interviewer trying to evaluate? There are 4 major things which you have to keep in mind. Now, all this that all the things that I'm telling you, it will help you communicate with the interviewer in a very effective and impactful manner. Okay. Now, what are the 4 things that you have to prove to your interviewer? First is your technical skills. That is totally non-negotiable. Even if you have very good communication skills, very good personality, but then you lack on a technical front, it is not going to work, right? So technical skills have to be strong. Now, when I mean strong, again, it varies from person to person. It varies from company to company. At a fresher level, I know that for this job fair, we have applications from both freshers and from experienced people. And there are job vacancies for both these segments, right? For freshers as well as experienced people. So for freshers, especially when I mean technical skills, what companies look for is, does this person understand the basics of the technologies, the basic logic behind the technologies, and is that person trainable? These are the 3 things that you will have to prove when it comes to your technical expertise. First thing is, are your basics strong? Do you know your syntaxes? Do you know your codes? Can you write certain codes on your own? Second is, it is not just about syntaxes and codes. It is also about the logic that goes behind that code. Okay? Do you have that logic? Do you understand that logic? And so these are the kind of things that you have to prove to the interviewer when it comes to your technical experience. More importantly, the third thing, are you trainable? Do you have the aptitude to learn more? Okay. Now, how will the interviewer evaluate all these things? Through the different questions they ask, right? Even now, these are not just HR rounds questions. Please do not misunderstand saying that, okay, technical round is different. In technical round, they will only evaluate technical skills. In the HR round, they will evaluate your other skills like your presentation and team spirit and collaborative work. All that only in the HR. That is not how it happens. Even in the technical round, your essential skills are workplace skills are going to be evaluated. When I come to that, we'll talk about it more in detail, right? So technical skills are very important, and then you have essential workplace skills. Okay, now these are skills like your how balanced are you emotionally? Are you a good team player? Are you able to communicate properly? Again, when I say communication, I don't just mean language and English. Okay, even if you're speaking very basic sentences in English, are you able to tell what is there in your mind? Are you able to help the other person understand what is there in your mind? That is communication, right? We use language, any language, could be English, Hindi, Marathi, Punjabi, Telugu, Kannada, whatever. Whatever is there in your mind, are you able to get that meaning across to the other person? And is the other person understanding what you're saying? That is communication. So do you have that skill? Sometimes people have very, very strong, good language skills, but they cannot communicate properly. They might speak very fluent English, but the other person might not be able to understand what this person is actually intending to say. The intentions might not be clear. Okay, so communication skills is definitely dependent on language, but it is not just language. Okay, so like that, there are different essential workplace skills that companies look for in their when they hire people. Now, the third point that you see here, cultural fitment, is a very, very important aspect, right? Because every company has its own culture. Some companies are very formal, right? It is a very formal structure. Some companies are very informal culture, right? So they don't have very strict rules about this time you have to come, this time you have to leave, and all those are not. They're like, as long as the work is being done and there is discipline, we are fine with it. But some companies are rigid. They have a certain hierarchy. They have very rigid processes. So you as a person, are you fitting into that kind of a culture? So that is something that they will see. And then the last thing they will see is what is the uniqueness that you're bringing into the team. If there are already 10 people in the team and they want 10 more people, if they're hiring more people, then what is the place that you will occupy in that team? What is the strengths that you come with? Okay. So these are basically the things that go on in the interviewer's mind. And these are the basic things on which you will be evaluated during an interview, whether it is technical round, whether it is HR round, whether it is some companies, what they do is, we have been seeing through our experience, right? First, you will just get a call. They will just talk to you for 2-3 minutes. Say, hi, how are you? How are you doing? Are things okay? So you have applied for this job. We got your resume. So this is how it goes from. It will just be a very, very casual conversation. But that will also be an evaluation conversation. After that, you will have technical rounds and then you will have the main HR round. Okay. So different companies have different ways of evaluating them. But essentially, these are the things that interviewers will focus on. Okay. Now, when I say essential skills, right? You see this in the second, after technical skills, the next most important thing that see is essential workplace skills. So technical skills, the kind of, the way you have to handle technical questions in interviews, you just had a session, so I'm not going into that again. Now, when it comes to essential skills, right? Now, we spoke to a lot of companies and a lot of research and survey also has been done by many big organizations as to what exactly are the top in-demand skills that companies are looking for when they hire. Okay, now these are apart from the technical skills. So as a general consensus, there are 6 skills that have come up. The most commonly asked, the most commonly demanded skills are 6, the top 6. First is creativity. Do you have it in you to think about a situation in a creative manner? Okay. Second is critical thinking and problem solving has become extremely important in today's workplace scenario, because the challenges are changing, right? Recently we had, for the last 2 years, we've been going through this pandemic situation. So the challenges that companies face in this kind of a situation are very different. So the same system that you were using for the past 10 years will not work now. So even in this situation, do you have it on you to think creatively, come up with solutions and keep the business going, keep the work going, right? The processes should not stop. So how can you keep it going despite changing conditions? Collaboration is another very important thing. Collaboration means basically teamwork, right? Are you a good team player? Are you able to gel with people? Now, in the present scenario, every workplace has multicultural teams. You have people from all over the world, all over the country, different states. They come with different mindsets. They come with different backgrounds, everything, lot of difference in everybody, right? So are you able to mingle with all of them, focus on work, and then deliver the kind of productivity that is expected from you, right? And then the fourth skill that has come up is persuasion skills. Persuasion skill is one step above communication skills, right? So that means, do you have it in you to convince somebody about your point of view? Okay. Do you have it in you to talk logically, give strong reasoning, and make the other person understand and convince and be convinced about your point of view? That has become an important skill as well. Fifth, that has come up in the list is adaptability quotient. Adaptability means, are you flexible to adapt to different work processes, different work cultures, or do you have rigidity? Tomorrow, if the process changes, can you adapt to that new process? Right? If something new comes up, can you quickly get into that phase? Technology is changing very fast. Today they are using some technology, tomorrow they might shift to some other technology. So can you quickly learn things and adapt to new working systems? And then you have emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence has become another very important thing, again, because stress levels are existent in every organization, right? There is no organization where there is no stress. So looking for a stress-free job is not the solution for a career, right? You have to learn how you can manage that. And when I say emotions, it doesn't just mean stress. It's just an example, right? So are you balanced? Do you have it in you to keep your emotions in balance? So that is emotional intelligence. So these are some of the essential workplace skills that companies look for. Now, how are these evaluated? Again, they might ask you something simple as, tell me about the projects that you have worked on, right? So when you talk about the project, the way you talk about your project, that will help the interviewer understand whether you have these skills. They might ask a question like, okay, so you were executing a project and then you faced this problem. What did you do? How did you solve that problem? How did you handle the situation? So all these kind of things that again, I'm saying these don't have to be in the HR round alone. All these skills are tested at every level, right? So these are the skills that you have to keep this in mind, because when you talk to the interviewer, these are the things that you have to project. You have to project that you are a creative person. You have to project that you can think critically, that you're a problem solver, not a problem creator for the team. You are a problem solver in the team. You have to prove that you can work in a team and collaborate with people with diverse thinking processes or diverse backgrounds. You have to prove that you have it in you to not give up and convince people with the right logic and reasoning abilities, that you can adapt to different situations, that you can keep your emotions under balance. So again, for the interviewer, you are an investment, right? And they're going to look at all these things before deciding that, yes, this is the person whom we want in the team. Because this person has technical skills, he knows the basics, he can be trained, and he comes with these essential skills. Now, these skills are not just for freshers. These are the same skills that are also applicable for working professionals. In fact, in working professionals, the expectation level will be higher. You should be able to think at a deeper level to solve problems, right? Because you come with experience. You've probably solved a lot of problems previously. So based on all that experience, how best can you handle situations in the new workplace? Right? So these are some of the in-demand essential skills in addition to the technical skills that you will have to face in the interviews. Now, one thing that every interview starts with, right, is your introduction. Now, let us spend a few minutes on understanding how you should introduce yourself. Now, there are two things that you have to keep in mind here. Every interview that happens, the interviewer will have your resume with them before the interview starts, right? In every interview, there will be usually, whether it is a face-to-face interview or an online interview, one thing that is mandatorily present in every case is your resume. In fact, you're shortlisted for the interview based on the resume itself, right? Many companies, before you come to the interview, you will have to crack a technical test. After you do the technical test, then you will have, some companies start with the HR round, some companies start with the technical round. It varies from company to company, but basically you do the test and then you come for the face-to-face rounds, okay? And whether it is a technical round or an HR round, one of the first things that you'll be asked is, please tell me something about yourself. Please introduce yourself. Please help me understand more about you. So it is phrased in different ways, but basically the intention is the same, right? Now the question that you have to ask yourself is, why is the interviewer asking you to introduce yourself? The interviewer already has your resume. He knows, he or she, whoever the interviewer is, that person knows what you have studied, how much percentage you have got. The interviewer knows, if you're a working professional, what you have been doing, what are some of the key deliverables that you have had, what are your educational qualifications, what are your skills. So they know all these things, right, from your interview. Why do they still ask you to introduce yourself? One of the mistakes that a lot of people do is to narrate or recite their resume as introduction. So the first thing that you have to keep in mind, the first takeaway for you from this session, one of the first takeaways for you from this session is, do not recite or narrate your resume, when the interviewer is asking you to introduce yourself, okay? Because he or she already knows that. The document is there in front of him. So why should you again go and talk about the same things that are there in your resume? You should talk about something that is not there in the resume, right? So that is what will grab the interviewer's attention. Now, in most cases, interviewers decide whether to hire that person or not hire that person in the first 2-3 minutes only. The interview might go on for half an hour. The interview might go on up to an hour sometimes. But the decision, not decision, but they have a fair idea about hiring you or not hiring you in the first 2, 3, 5 minutes. Okay. Now the remaining time, they are just trying to see whether the impression that they got about you is correct or not. After that, it is only verification. Okay, the 90% of the decision is made within the first 5 minutes. And what happens in the first 5 minutes? You don't go into deep question answer session, right? In the first 5 minutes, so the only thing happens is introduction and hello, hi to start with. So your introduction actually sets the entire tone for your interview as well. The rest of the interview, and trust me, 80% of the questions that you're going to be asked are from whatever you tell in your own introduction. If you talk about certain technologies, if you say that I'm skilled in certain things, they will ask you questions on that. If you say that your hobby is to read books, they'll ask you questions on books. If they tell you that, if you tell them that, I want to make a career transition from certain technology into full stack Java, they will ask you questions based on the transition. So 80% of the questions that you get in the interviews are based on what you tell them in the introduction. That is why the introduction aspect is so important. If you do it right, you can actually steer the interviewer towards, in a way that that your strengths come out and not your areas of improvement. Okay. So the question that you have to ask when an interviewer is asking you to introduce yourself is, why does the interviewer want me to introduce myself? What is it that he's looking to see? What is it that he's trying to evaluate? Again, your introduction does not have to be, it should not be, in fact, it should not be one standard template by hearted introduction. You remember the laptop sales example that we spoke about when we started? Your introduction is also like that, based on the interviewer, based on the company. When I say interviewer, what I mean is company. You have to alter your introduction. You might have to change your introduction based on the company that you're interviewing for. Okay? What does that mean? You have to start with understanding the job description, read about the company. If the job description is asking you for certain skills, talk about your expertise in those skills. You might have 10 skills, but all those 10 skills are not relevant to that particular company. That company is only looking for 2 skills or 3 skills. So just focus on that. Talk about those. You can mention about the other skills also, but your focus has to be on talking about how good you are with these 2-3 skills or technologies, because the company is asking for that, right? So that is how you have to kind of customize your introduction. It doesn't just have to be in terms of skills. Even when you talk about your educational qualifications, if there is some certification program that you did when you were in college, or even as a working professional, if you did something to upskill yourself, and that certificate or that knowledge that you have is applicable to this company, talk about it. Like, not just as a passing remark, but stress on it. Okay? If there is some competition you won, if there is some hackathon that you participated in, if there is some award that you got, some prize that you got for whatever related to something that this company is asking for, talk about it. Now, these things might not be relevant to some other interview. There, they might not be asking those things. They might be asking something else. But here, they are asking certain things, so focus on that. Okay? So that is why I'm stressing so much on this. Do not create a by-hearted introduction of yourself. Your introduction has to be fluid. Certain things will not change, right? Your name, where you're based, what you've studied, those things will not change. And those things are already there in your resume. So you don't have to stress too much on your educational qualifications and all that. You have to speak about things that are not necessarily there in your resume, right? So what should you actually talk about? What will actually give you an advantage when it comes to attending interviews, right? So certain things are standard, like I said, like your name. You always start with your name, right? And then you talk about one line that can describe you as a person, right? For example, you can say, my name is Shruthi, and I am a person who's really, really enthusiastic about learning new technologies. Okay. Or you can say something like, my name is Shruthi, and I love taking up jobs that are challenging. Right? Or you can say something like, my name is Shruthi, and I'm always looking for to enhance my skill levels, or something like that. One line that can help the interviewer understand what kind of a person you are. Okay, so that is something that is not there in your resume, right? So when you say something different like that, it actually grabs their attention. That first 5 minutes, which is so crucial in the interview, because that is where 80% of the decision is made. So those 5 minutes you should make the best use of, right? So you tell your name, and even a name, right? Some people have the habit of saying so there are different ways of telling your name. You can say, my name is Shruthi. You can say, I am Shruthi. Those are both fine. But some things are not okay. Like, myself Shruthi. There's a very wrong way of saying it. A lot of people do it. I request you not to do it when you go for interviews. Always say, my name is so-and-so, or I am so-and-so. Don't say myself so-and-so. Don't say this is so-and-so. Don't say this is Shruthi is wrong. It's not the best way to do it. Myself Shruthi is grammatically also wrong. In English, there is nothing like myself followed by your name. So do not do that. Okay? Say, hi, I'm Shruthi, or hi, my name is Shruthi, or hello, whatever you say. Okay? And then you talk about something that you want the interviewer to focus on about you as a person. And one line. Just this entire introduction that we're talking about should be wound up within 1 or 2 minutes. Don't go beyond that. Don't go on talking about yourself for a very long time. The interviewer will zone out and lose interest in listening to you. Now, after that, you talk about what you're doing currently. Okay? Here also, people, I interview a lot of people because we are hiring, we keep hiring as well, right, in our company. So when I interview people, I have seen that a lot of people start talking about their educational qualifications right from their 10th standard onwards. I'm not interested in that at this point of time. Okay? So always work backwards. Start with what you're doing currently and jump right to the point. Don't beat around the bush. Okay? So if you're a fresher, you can say that I've just graduated from college a couple of months ago. Right now, I'm investing my time into learning new technologies, and I really want to get a job in full stack Java as soon as possible. If you're a working professional, talk about your work experience. You can say something like, currently, I am working as a software developer in so-and-so company, and as part of my work, these are the 2-3 important things I do. Again, don't recite or narrate your resume in the interview. I'm repeating this again and again because the interviewer has already seen your resume. That is why you're sitting in front of him, right? Because he liked your resume, he approved your resume, it passed their screening process. That is why you're sitting in front of them. They know what is there in your resume. So you can give the same information with little more depth, or tell them something that is not there. Okay? So you tell your name, you talk about one quality about yourself that you want to highlight, and then you talk about what you're doing right now. Okay? If you're a working professional, if you have 5-6 years of experience, if you have done 3, 4, 5 jobs, spend more time on the present job and just one line mention of the previous jobs. Okay, so you can say, currently I'm a software engineer. I work on core Java technology. And as part of my work, these are the 2-3 things I do. Before joining this company, I worked in so-and-so company as this. And before that, in that company as this. That's all. Okay. If the interviewer is really interested to know, he will ask more questions about that. So then you can talk about it. But to start with, don't go and elaborate too much. Okay. Because you have to understand the interviewers are interviewing a lot of people every day. Right? And as human beings, we have limited attention span. We cannot listen to a person for a very long time. Usually in monotonous kind of conversations, 2-3 minutes, the mind starts getting distracted. Okay, so that is why I'm saying the introduction should not be more than 2 minutes. After 2 minutes, you have to give the interviewer a chance to ask you some questions. Then that transaction, that interview conversation is both you and the interviewer are attentive there. There is very, very less distraction. And that is a good interview, where both the interviewer and the interviewee are not getting distracted. Okay. Now, after you talk about your current occupation, talk about why full stack Java, right? Why are you interviewing for this job? What is it about this technology that excites you so much? Why are you not going for something else? Why are you coming here? Now, you might also be aware that one of the things that companies ask is, why should I hire you? A very common question, right? Why should I hire you? Tell me why I should hire you. A lot of people ask this question. So through this kind of an introduction, you're actually giving justification as to why should they hire you. They should hire you because you're this kind of person. That is the first line that you're describing yourself as, right? They should hire you because you have achieved certain things. If you're a working professional, you come with this kind of experience. They should hire you because you're actually interested in full stack Java technology. Talk about why is this technology exciting to you? Is it because it is an evergreen technology? Is it because you find the technology very interesting? Is it because you have spent a lot of time working on this technology and that gives you the confidence of doing very well in this technology? Why full stack Java? Please prepare an answer for this. Okay? And talk about it in your introduction itself. That will add a lot of value to the conversation that you're going to have with the interviewer. Okay? And then you talk about your strengths. And when you talk about your strengths, don't use the word strengths. You don't say, my strength is to solve problems critically. That is also okay, but then it looks very textbooky. It sounds like you've actually prepared a script, things like that. So you say that I'm good at problem solving, and I can come up with new ways of solving routine problems. Okay, so you talk about your strengths that way, or you can say, I'm really good at, I'm a people's person. My interpersonal skills are really strong, so I can work with teams very well. And when you talk about your strengths, it will be good if you can give an example, but not at the introduction stage. Later, during the conversation, if the interviewer asks you about your strengths, always talk about your strength and give a situation where you displayed that strength. Okay? If you're claiming to be a good team worker, can you think of one situation where for freshers, it could be in your college, right? In college also, you're working on different projects and all that, right? So it could be some situation from your college life, or for working professionals, it could be some situation from your previous employers, where you actually displayed that strength in a situation. Talk about that situation. You can say, we were working on a project, and while working on a project, we hit this roadblock. The deadlines were close, so I came up with an idea of doing a certain thing, and that solved the problem. Okay, so when you're actually justifying your strengths, it adds tremendous amount of value, and it also proves that you know what you're talking about. You're not just talking about your strengths, you have actually displayed that strength, right? That actually gives a lot of confidence to the interviewer also. Again, I keep going back to the same thought, which is, are you a good investment? So all these things that you talk about will prove that yes, you are a good investment. Now, through our boot camp, right, we run these 6-month boot camps for Java full stack and for data science. So through the full stack, we train all our students in all these aspects. so that when they go to the interview, they're actually able to very confidently talk about these things. We make our students think about their strengths, present their strengths. How do you talk about your strengths? First thing is identifying your strengths, and then how do you talk about your strengths? How do you identify your short-term and long-term goals? How do you self-analyze yourself to describe yourself, right? So all this kind of training is a part of the boot camps that we do, because that is what the industry wants. When you go and sit in front of the interviewer, these are the things that will actually make a difference and give you an advantage over the others. Now, there are 5 openings, for example. There are 500 people trying for those 5 job roles, right? So how should you actually present yourself and get that advantage? Talk about your strengths. 1 strength or maximum 2 strengths. That's it. Talk about your short-term and long-term goals. Now, all this that I'm telling you, these are all one for each element that you see here. You just have to talk 1 or 2 sentences, not more than that. This entire thing can be wrapped up within 2 minutes. 2 minutes is the max limit. 1.5 minutes is best. Okay. What is it that you're looking for in the short term? And what is it that you're looking for in the long term? One of the questions that a lot of interviewers ask is, where do you see yourself 3 years down the line? Where do you see yourself 5 years down the line? So what is that question basically? That question is to ask, to see what kind of goals you have. So can you come up with something that is relevant to that company? Please do not talk generic stuff in an interview. When I say generic stuff, I mean, don't tell the interviewer that in the long term, my goal is to establish myself in a good position. That is a very bad way of putting your long-term goal. What do you mean? What exactly do you have in mind when you say good position? That is a very generic thing, right? Are you talking about socially you want to be good, financially you want to be good, professionally you want to be good, personally you want to be well settled? What exactly are you trying to say? That answer doesn't make a lot of sense in the interview context, right? Excuse me, please. Right? So when you talk about your goals, be specific. Say that in the next 3 years, I see myself in a team lead position at least, with core strength in these technologies. In the long term, I see myself growing to a certain level in this technology. So talk something which is specific and make it relevant to that job description, to the job that you are interviewing for. Okay. Then talk about your achievements, either in college or your previous work experience, whatever you think is appropriate for that job. Even in the resume, right? I have seen people writing. They're going in for a technical full-stack job, and the achievement they write is got first place in singing competition in college. That is a good achievement, but is that relevant? Is the question, right? You talk about your hobbies and interests. So basically, your hobbies and interests will show that you have multiple facets to your personality, which is a good thing. You should have multiple things. In fact, companies appreciate people who have hobbies. They appreciate people who have certain lateral talents, like, if you play an instrument, or if you play cricket, you play football. They like that because it means that you have certain things that will relax you. Somebody who doesn't have hobbies, it is very difficult for them to bust their stress. Hobbies are basically, they divert your mind to some interesting activity and your stress level comes down, your emotions are in balance, you relax, right? So hobbies and interests are very important for that. So companies appreciate it. So talk about your talents and all as part of when you talk about your hobbies and interests. But in achievements, talk about things that are relevant to that job. Like if you have participated in a hackathon, write that. If you participated in if you have presented a paper somewhere, talk about that. Or if your papers have been published in some journal, talk about it. Okay. Or as a team player, if you have been able to achieve certain goals for your team, if you have, if your efforts have significantly helped the company reach certain targets, talk about that. Okay. So that is why before you go to any interview, it is so important that you understand what you are interviewing for. Do not go into a job interview without understanding the job description. Okay. And finally, after you talk about all this, you can come to your educational qualifications. Now, your education qualifications, if you are a fresher, then you can talk about it earlier. But if you're an experienced professional, if you already have a few years of experience, then education qualifications can come slightly later. Also keep in mind that the interviewer has your resume. They know your education qualification, right? So if it's okay if you talk about it slightly later, because it's something they already know. Talk about, I have done my bachelor's in computer science engineering from so-and-so college in so-and-so year. And after that, I have done these certification programs because I like to keep myself updated and upskilled. Okay, so then finally you talk about your hobbies and interests. And that is not mandatory. Again, only if you have hobbies, genuinely talk about it. If you don't have it, don't talk about it. It's absolutely okay if you don't talk about it. Because, like I said in the beginning, most of the questions that come to you will be from what you tell them. If you are careful about what you tell them, you will not get unexpected curveball kind of questions. Okay? So, now one thing that is not there in this list and something that a lot of people talk about is family background. Okay? Please keep in mind that the company is hiring you. They are not hiring your family. Right? They're not hiring your parents. They're not hiring your brothers and sisters. They're not hiring your husbands and wives. They're hiring you. So do not talk about your family background unless they ask for it. If they ask, where are you from? What do your parents do? Are you married, not married? If they ask questions like that, talk about it. If they do not ask questions, please do not go and volunteer information there because it is not relevant as far as a workplace scenario is concerned. Okay? Even in your resume, a lot of people in towards the end where you write about yourself, right? They add marital status. That is absolutely not required. Whether you're married or not married, that is not relevant to the kind of work you're doing, right? So you don't have to mention it. So family background, leave it out. Do not volunteer that information. But if the interviewer is asking for it, you can talk about it. Whatever they ask, if they ask, tell me about your family, how many people are there in your family, no, you can talk, you can tell them. But do not make it a part of your introduction. The worst thing that you can do is start your introduction with your family background. And a lot of people do that. I have had that experience myself. My name is Shruthi and I stay in Hyderabad. My father is a professor. My mother is a homemaker. I have 2 brothers and sisters. And they go off like that. Okay, please avoid it. Family background is not needed unless if they really want to know, they will ask. Okay. So again, to sum up the elements of your introduction, right? Your name and tell your full name, not just your first name, but tell your full name when you introduce yourself, because that's the first formal face-to-face introduction that you're having with the person who's interviewing you, right? If the same person is coming the next time, first name is enough. Okay, but if that person is that the first introduction you have with that person, please tell your full name, then talk about one strong personality trait you have, then talk about what you're doing right now. Okay, if you have multiple companies experience, again, if some experience that you have had is totally not relevant, again I keep using this word again and again, relevance, you don't have to tell it. For example, you might have started your career in a call center. I'm just giving an example. Okay, right out of college, as part of your campus placement, you might have got a job in a call center in a voice process or non-voice process, BPO, whatever. And after 1 or 2 years, you might have upskilled yourself, learned a new technology, and shifted into a developer job. Okay. So in that case, anyway, your first job, your BPO experience will be there in your resume. You will put it in your resume, but you don't have to talk about it as part of your introduction. Okay, leave it out. Not needed. When you talk, only focus on things that are absolutely important and relevant for you to get that job. Don't talk about things and don't distract the interviewer's mind here and there. Just keep the focus on this is what you need, this is what I have, and I think what I have fits what you require. That should be your attitude when you're talking about it, right? After your current occupation, you talk about why you're interested in full stack Java technology. So the industry, one of the biggest problems that the industry is facing these days is attrition, right? People are resigning their jobs left, right, center, jumping from one company to another company. So all these things are going on. So a company wants to hire a person who is actually interested and passionate about the job. So when I say interested, he's not here just because he's done a course and he wants money here. That is not the only reason. That is definitely a reason. Not the only reason. This person is here because he loves this technology. If you can convince that, it will actually give you a huge advantage, right? Then talk about your strengths. Then talk about your short-term, long-term goals. Then your achievements. Again, every point here, make sure that it is relevant to what you're interviewing for. Don't talk irrelevant things and distract the interviewer and yourself. Educational qualifications, hobbies, and interests. Talk about it, and this entire thing should be summed up in 1.5 minutes. Trust me, it is very much possible. Okay? Don't talk too much about your marital status, family background. Not needed when you're interviewing for a job. Okay? So these are the important elements that you have to put in. Introduction. This will give you a very good head start because most of the next questions will come from the things that you've spoken about. Okay. It will also give you a lot of confidence. Okay. So this is how you handle the introduction part. Now, the entire introduction process, right? Again, reiterating what I said, it should not be one template. It should change from company to company, depending on what the company is asking for. All right. Now, if this can be done well, the rest of the interview will more or less be okay. Okay. Now, another important thing that we will talk about next is your resume, right? Now, most of you have sent us your resume. If needed, we will reach out to you in case we have not received it. But going forward, there are certain important things that you have to keep in mind when you write your resume, right? So basically, what is a resume? Let us try and understand that. A resume or a CV or a profile is basically a summary of your academics and your work history. If you're a working professional, it is a summary of your work history and your academics. If you're a fresher, then it is a summary of your academics, whatever, your graduation or post-graduation, whatever you've done. Now, how do you actually present it in a way that makes an impression? Okay. What do I mean by makes an impression? The first level of screening happens at the resume level. Okay. You might have a very strong technical base. You might have really good work experience. But if you don't present it properly in the resume, you might not even get shortlisted. Before you talk to the interviewer, there is a document that is there, which is the resume, right? So basically, what is a resume? It is a marketing brochure. It's like a brochure, your brochure. It's a marketing tool that you're using to market yourself, right? So like companies, they give brochures, right, for different products they have. And what does a brochure do? It talks about what are the features, and based on the brochure, sometimes we make our decision, right? So a resume is like a brochure of yourself, and the intention of that brochure is to market you. When I say you, I mean your skill sets, your relevance to the job, how well you're fitting into that job. That is what I mean. Again, in the most ideal situations, your resume should also be slightly changed from job to job. What does that mean? If one particular company is asking for 2-3 important skills, in your resume, those 2-3 skills should come on the top. Okay? Some other company might need some other skills. Change the order. We all write, right? There is one section where you write about your skills. At least change the order of that list depending on what the company wants. Okay? Because nobody reads the entire resume. It could be 1 page, it could be 2 pages, right? Your resume should not be more than 1 or 2 pages. 2 pages is max. 1 page is best. So nobody in detail will read everything. They will just take a glance at it and get the gist of it. So one of the reasons why tabular forms, bullet points and all are used in a resume and not paragraphs is because you want the interviewer to see exactly. So what is there, right? So in your bullet points, if you have written a list of say 7 or 8 points under your achievements or under your skills, the interviewer will probably read the top 3-4 and just glance at the bottom 3-4, right? So that is why you should change the order in which you have presented your skill sets or your achievements. Or if you're a working professional, if you have described the kind of work you do, that order also you can change. Okay? So the thing is, you want the interviewer to see exactly what is important, to see what he is looking for. Okay, so it is definitely a best practice to make small changes. Now the basic content remains the same, but changing the order, presenting something, making some words bold, that is another good way of drawing attention to certain aspects, right? Talking about your skills, talking about your achievements, all this relevant to what the company is looking for. So that is how your resume has to be made. Okay. Now, what all do you put in your resume? Basic, your personal details. Your personal details means your email address, phone number. Towards the end, you might also want to have your date of birth. But again, like I said, your family background, father's name, mother's name, married, not married, all that is not needed. You might want to include hobbies. You might want to include the languages that you can speak. That can be an advantage because, like I said, multicultural teams, and the job might be in a different place. So language is another advantage in certain ways. But don't go into marital status and family backgrounds, right? And then you talk about your career objective. Okay, Career objectives, please ensure that again you genuinely write it based on your strengths and whatever you're looking for. What are your objectives from your career? Focus on that and spend some time creating a good career objective. When we do our boot camps through the 6 months, we have one session exclusively dedicated to how do you write a career objective. It is important because in your resume, your career objective is right at the top, right? That's the first thing that is there in your resume. So it's very important that it be written well. The worst case is when you copy paste something. Like I have received resumes that just directly copy pasted career objectives from Google. That is not what I want, because as an employer, I'm looking for creativity. I'm looking for somebody who can think and analyze. But if you're not even able to analyze your own skill sets and you're copy pasting something from somewhere, then I am not impressed, right? So similarly, there are companies will not be impressed or they'll just ignore it. Okay. So genuinely write your career objective. It will give you also a certain focus. Your educational qualifications doesn't have to be in a tabular form always. You know, most of the resumes I've seen, they're in tabular form. Doesn't have to be that way. Presentation you can always change. Your professional experience, your technical qualifications, your skills, your achievements, your references. References again is optional. You don't have to put it, but it is a good to have here. Okay. So these are different things that you put in your resume. Now, certain things you can keep in mind to make your resume more effective. Okay. It is good if you use power words in your resume. What do I mean by power words? Power words are action words. Okay. And these are words that have an impact on the reader. Here are some of the examples, some examples that you can see on the screen. Instead of saying got first prize, say achieved first position. Achieved is a power word. It has an impact. It is heavy. It's heavier than got, right? Instead of saying completed 4 batches, say accomplished 4 batches. Now again, the meaning is not changing, right? The meaning doesn't change, but the impact of that sentence changes. Always try and make the sentence impactful, because your resume only has bullet points mainly, right? It doesn't have paragraphs and paragraphs. It usually has only bullet points. So start the sentence with a strong word. So designed, facilitated, accomplished, achieved, these are all power words. So see how you can bring in more power words into your resume. That makes your resume, it gives 2 advantages. One is it makes it more interesting, good for the interviewer to read. And second, it creates a really strong first impression. But more importantly, what you should do is format your resume really well, right? Please ensure that the alignments are proper. If you're giving a physical resume, if it's a face-to-face interview, make sure that the paper size is standard, the margins are standardized. Okay, the print is on one side of the paper. Please do not make grammatical errors. That is the worst possible thing. Grammatical errors, spelling errors, all these are not okay in a resume at all. They're totally non-negotiable. It has to be accurate. Good thing is nowadays you have a lot of tools like Grammarly, and there are other tools that you can use to ensure that there are no grammatical errors. If you are not very confident about your English, please get your resume proofed by someone else. It could be a friend, it could be somebody in your family, it could be your teacher, it could be your instructor, it could be whoever, whom you think speaks good English, knows good English. You can go to them and ask them to check the resume for language and grammar accuracy. Okay, please do not send your resume with spelling mistakes or grammar mistakes. The font is also makes a difference. So ensure that the font that are using is a font that is professionally accepted. Times New Roman is the most standard one, but you can also go for Verdana or Arial. Both of these three are good. I wouldn't recommend Calibri because it is not considered a very professional font. Okay. The other thing that you can avoid doing is underlining, and but more than that, do not italicize words. Okay, you can bold them. If you want to highlight something, make it bold. That attracts attention, but don't make it italics, because as per standard norms, only scientific names are italicized. If you remember from your school, your biology textbook, names of flowers and names of the scientific terms, when it comes to the scientific names of things, those words are italicized. Okay, so that is the standard convention, writing convention. So don't italicize, instead make those bold. Okay, make sure that the font sizes are very consistent. If you're using 12 for the text and 14 for the side headings and name, use the same consistent thing everywhere. Okay. Let the bullet points also be consistent. Don't use round bullets and then square bullets and then arrow bullets and then flower bullets or whatever. Maintain consistency. Okay. You can avoid borders, because the modern versions of resumes that are coming in, they are more minimalistic. They got to be neat, crisp, clear, and borders are a distraction. So you can avoid borders as well. Again, these are just guidelines. These are not rules. Okay. So, but these are some things that can actually make your resume look better. All right. Now, there are different forms of resume that you can give, right? Different types of resume. But for our industry, Indian industry, usually either chronological or functional are used. The others are not usually used. Okay. Chronological resumes are ones in which you list out your achievements, your education, your experience, everything in a chronological order, means date-wise. And my strong recommendation is start from the latest and work backwards, right? So talk what you're doing now and then write the previous ones, okay? So that is chronological resume. Now, functional resumes, you don't have to mention time spans. Now, when do you use functional resumes? For people who have career gaps. I don't know how many people in the audience today have career gaps, but if you have career gaps, then it is good to use functional resume, because there the career gap is not highlighted. Instead, your skills are highlighted, your experience is highlighted. Okay. So the thing is, your resume should not become a reason for you to be rejected from the interview process. You should have a fighting chance of at least writing the technical test, attending the face-to-face interview. You should try and get yourself to that level, because that is when you actually prove your skills. Your resume doesn't prove anything about you. It is just a paper which talks about you, doesn't prove anything. Proof comes when you do the written test, and proof comes when you do the face-to-face round. So you should write your resume in such a manner that your resume doesn't become a reason for you to be rejected. Okay. So if you think that your career gap can be a risk for your selection, then instead of using a chronological resume, use a functional resume. Forget the dates, don't write the dates. Instead, write experience or whatever and describe that. Okay. So these are the two main types of resumes that you can use, chronological and functional. As part of our programs, we also have like 3-4 sessions dedicated to resume writing, because our thing is our students should not get rejected based on a resume. If they are not able to crack an interview, talk to the interview, have a face-to-face interview and not make it, that is still okay, because we will give them unlimited number of opportunities. At OdinSchool, we don't have limitation on the number of opportunities that students get. If you're not able to do the first interview, you get a second chance, third chance, fourth chance. as long as you want for 6 months, right? Placement support is available for 6 months after the program. Unlimited chances we give, but we try and see that the resume level screening all our students make, and there is a certain training that we do for that as well. So for you, for all, since you're looking for a job through the job fair, make sure that your resume is properly done, right? Those of you who have not uploaded your resumes, please do it, because without your resume, we will not be able to forward your profile to the corporates. Okay? Now, let us address one more issue, and then if there are questions, I'll take questions, or we'll look at another topic. Now, what if you have gaps? I don't know if people in the audience today have them, but what if you have gaps? What do you do in an interview if there are gaps? Okay. First thing, understand that gaps are not uncommon. 50% people will have gaps. It could be a 6-month gap, or it could be a 6 years gap. Doesn't matter. Okay. Remember, it is not end of the road. At OdinSchool, we have placed people after 7 years of gap. In fact, we have placed people who have had gaps within their educational, within their college also. 3 years degree, a person had a personal challenge, he did it for 5 years. We were able to place such people also. Women who've been on maternity break for 6 years, 7 years, 11 years have got jobs after going through the boot camp. So gaps are not really important. It is not the end of the road. So first thing is, be confident that you are still capable of getting a job despite that gap. Don't lose your confidence because of the gap. Okay, we have seen the problem is not with the gap. The problem is with the mindset of this person. You know, the mind says, oh God, I have gap. Can I make it? Will the company consider me? Will they just reject me because I have a gap? Doesn't happen. You will get a chance to prove yourself. Okay, so don't lose confidence there. Now, what should you focus on? A gap is a gap is a gap. It is there. You can't hide it forever. At some level in the interview process, you will be asked questions about it. So what should you say when questions are asked? Okay, there are 4 main things that you should focus on. First is, why did the gap happen? During the gap time, did you do something professionally? Even if it is an upskilling program, even if it is a boot camp, even if it is a certification program, a license program, whatever you have done, a technical certification, talk about it. Okay, so that shows that even though there was a gap, you kept yourself updated, you kept yourself busy, right? And then talk about, now after the gap, why do you want to come into the workforce again? What is motivating you to come back to the workforce after all this gap? Right? And then just having the motivation to get into the workforce again is not enough. Because from the time you stopped working to now, a lot of things have changed, right? If you took a break from work 3 years ago and you're trying to get back into the workforce now, a lot of things have changed in 3 years, right? So what are you doing now to bridge the gap? Again, you can talk about upskilling yourself in some way, even if it is a small certification program you do. You have to do something to bridge that gap. Okay, even if it is a course on Coursera or Udemy or boot camp like OdinSchool boot camp. So these are all good ways of helping you get back into the workforce and cover up that gap. Okay, because then the focus of the interviewer shifts on the certification that you did and not on the gap. So again, reiterating what I was saying, a lot of people have gaps. Don't lose confidence based on that, but make sure that you have proper answers for these 4 questions. Why did the gap happen? Professionally, did you do something during the gap? It could be freelancing work also. Okay. Why do you want to get back? Why do you want to get back into the workforce now? And what have you done to bridge the gap? These 4 things, if you can address, more or less, you'll be able to cover up for the fact that you have a gap. Okay, so don't worry about that. Now, the next thing that we're going to talk about, I'm going to take another 5-10 minutes for this probably, and then we will end the session. Unless there are some questions, you can type the questions. I will take them. Okay. So if you're applying for a job, make sure that your LinkedIn profile is updated, please. Okay, because a lot of employers these days are going and checking LinkedIn profiles. So having a updated LinkedIn profile will help a lot. Okay, so a LinkedIn profile has multiple sections. Your name section, the title tag, place, about, there's a section about you. What are the different activities that you're involving in on LinkedIn? Okay, are you following people who are in the full stack technology? Are you following innovators? What kind of people you're following? Are you commenting? Are you liking their posts? How active are you on LinkedIn? What kind of activity you do? Just opening your LinkedIn profile will help that person understand how serious you are about your career. Okay, so always keep your LinkedIn profile updated. Your own profile, right? The way you write about your experience, your education, licenses. LinkedIn itself offers certain licenses and certifications. And some of these are very simple also. It will not take more than a few hours for you to do that. So have you done something like that? Has somebody endorsed you? It could be even something, an internship that you might have done. And whoever was, whomever you were reporting to as part of the internship, ask them to write a line about your work. That actually adds a lot of value, right? Because everything else, you're talking about yourself. But endorsement, somebody else is vouching for you. And that is any day more impactful and more effective. Your accomplishments you can talk about and your interests you can talk about. Okay, so make sure that all these elements are updated in your LinkedIn profile. Now, certain things that you have to keep in mind is when you're making your LinkedIn profile, if you have not updated it, please spend today, tomorrow, because day after tomorrow, within the next 10 days to 14 days, 2 weeks, you'll start getting calls from different companies. So before you get those calls, please make sure that the LinkedIn profile is updated. Okay. Certain things, whom do you want to target? What do you want them to see? How do you want them to perceive you? These 3 questions you have to keep in mind. Okay. Why for that? Because the focus has to be on keywords. Now, this will also help other companies find you easy. Whoever is looking to hire full stack people, if they go to LinkedIn and if they type experienced full stack Java professionals, if your profile has to come in that list, you have to use those keywords. Like full stack is a keyword, Java is a keyword, Java architect is a keyword, Java technologies is a keyword, software developer Java is a keyword. So when you use these kind of words in your profile, in your LinkedIn profile, the chances of you appearing on those searches are higher. Okay. So include all these things in your LinkedIn profile. Put yourself in the prospective employee's shoe. If you were the interviewer, if you are trying to hire somebody, okay, what will you look for when you go to somebody's profile and see their profile as an interviewer? What will impress you, right? So think from that point of view and then make your LinkedIn profile. And this is very important because a lot of hiring is happening through LinkedIn these days. Okay, so through the job fair, we are giving you lots of opportunities. We have 25 plus companies on board. as part of our the students who work with us, we expose them to 250 more than 250 companies. They get lots of opportunities, but through LinkedIn also a lot of hiring happens. Okay, so using all these keywords and all that will definitely help you optimize your profile and be found by prospective employers. Okay, the last thing that I'm going to discuss before ending the session is this. Very important and very awkward for a lot of people to talk about, right? One of the questions that they'll ask is, what is the salary that you're expecting? So that is when you start your salary negotiations, right? What is it that you talk about? So you know the job that you're interviewing for. You also know it's very easy to get information about the general salary range. Most of the job descriptions have salaries, right? Otherwise, go to Glassdoor.com and these kind of websites, Indeed, Glassdoor. These will give you a very good idea about the salary ranges that people in that company for that particular designation get. Okay. Now for company ABC, you'll be able to see that full stack Java software developer role gets between 8 lakhs and 12 lakhs. So you can quote a salary in that range. Okay. You do not have to short sell yourself. Always what we recommend is, if you're expecting 10 lakhs, please say 11 lakhs, because there will be negotiation and you might probably come back settle at 10.5 or something based on your experience and other things. Freshers, again, depending on the college you studied in, depending on your own skill sets, depending on your performance in the interview, it can start anyway. It can start with 4 lakhs, 3.5 lakhs, go on up to 20, 25 lakhs. Like we have had freshers as part of our boot camp, our freshers have got up to 11 lakh salaries. 14 lakhs actually is the highest that one of our students got, was a fresher. So it is very much possible for freshers to get high paying jobs. The only thing is when they ask how much are you expecting, don't lose confidence and quote a lower price. Okay, because if you quote a lower price, they're going to settle at that lower price only. So you might have a chance to get higher, but you are losing the opportunity on your own. So do not make that mistake. Okay, be confident when you talk about your salary. Some companies, they have a fixed range. They will tell you that as per our company norms, this is the range we have. Are you okay with it? If you're okay with it, say no. If you're not okay with it, that's fine. Okay, but if you see that there is a scope for negotiation, then please take that opportunity and negotiate. It's absolutely okay. If when you negotiate, it means that you value your own skill sets. You are not going to short sell yourself. If you think that you're worth 5 lakhs, you should say 5 lakhs. You should not settle for 3 or 3.5. If you think you're worth, again, how do you know that you're worth? You should have that kind of technical competence. You should be able to prove your technical competency at different levels when you go through the interview process, right? If you have won certain hackathons, if you have participated in coding competitions, if you have been an achiever in your previous workplaces, if you've been a really good achiever, then you should make use of that strength that you have in code. Okay. So don't get nervous when it comes to salary negotiations. Keep in mind that they are only asking questions about you. Understand your strengths, understand your areas of improvement. What most companies will look for is this person confident about what he knows? If you don't know an answer for it, confidently tell that I don't know, but I would like to know about it. I would definitely like to learn. This sounds interesting. As of now, I don't have an answer, but I will definitely like to know about it. Okay, that answer is acceptable. But losing your confidence and saying, not saying it with confidence can be not a very nice thing. It might put you at a disadvantage. So these are the things that I wanted to talk to you about. So we are going to start sharing your profiles with companies that have joined this job fair very shortly. And like I said, within the next 2 weeks, you will start getting calls. These 2 weeks, please use this time to practice the way you present yourself in front of the interviewer, right? We discussed a lot of things about how you should introduce yourself, how you should make yourself relevant, how you should present different things to different people based on what they need, what they are looking for, right? How your resume needs to be optimized, how your LinkedIn profile has to be updated, how you should take questions on salaries. Okay, so I hope the recording of this session is going to be available for you. If you want, go through this entire session once more, pause it at multiple places, think about the different things that we have spoken. Prepare a strong introduction for yourself, because that will set the tone for the entire interview. Whether it is the technical round or the HR round, make sure that you put your best foot forward, present a confident picture of yourself, prove to them that I have the capability of learning and adapting to whatever you want me to adapt to, and that I am a good investment for your company. If you can do that, then there are unlimited opportunities for you just through this job fair also, right? So all the best to all of you. I hope all of you get great jobs, and you keep associated with OdinSchool for multiple other events and programs that we keep with it. All the best, and thank you so much. Prasad, over to you, please.
Thank you, Shruthi. Thank you for your valuable inputs. Guys, so that's it from our end for the job fair session. So I'm ending the stream. Thank you guys for attending the session. Thank you. Bye.
Bye, everyone.